dislike on it.
Nice.
Looks good, yeah. So we went from nothing to.
Because we didn't get any dislikes on the video.
Yep, look. When I made the change, look at the reach.
Oh yeah, and just one dislike.
I think so. Okay, I'm turning the camera on.
Okay.
3 likes and 1 dislike. So that's 2 new likes today and 1 dislike. Okay, come on, girl. You can do this. You can do this. Nope, you can't do this.
Whoa, whoa.
That's okay. I know. Yeah, that's what I.
Jeez.
You okay? How's your heart?
Coffee everywhere. My God.
That would have been funny.
It's just so weird. Like I guess I didn't realize the defense had rested yesterday. Just yesterday, I was so busy.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder. I thought I saw somewhere where they said the defense is going to go first. That's how they do it in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I mean, what's the prosecution going to say?
I don't know. I'm very curious because up to this point, I haven't felt that Prosecutor Lally has been convincing.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it.
I wish.
I'm getting some loving over here.
Because he's gonna jump up and ruin everything.
Yeah. I think with that camera angle, you should be able to see him up there now.
Let me see. Yeah, kind of. But not really. Yeah.
Enough of him up there, yeah. He's a good boy. He's a good boy.
So they said the McCabe's, according to Twitter, the McCabe's and the Alberts are in the gallery right now. Hey, it's just so funny how divisive this trial is.
I know.
In that little corner of America. All right.
What are you doing now? Give me that
look. Hooly hooly chicken. Yum yum. Oh, that's what I need to do. I need to pull out some dinner. I'm going to use up all the vegetables. Okay, now he's on my side. Oh, you got a new message? Oh, that was from you. Because I'm logged in here.
Are you okay?
Oh, stop scratching. Come, just jump.
Yeah, I know. He doesn't.
Just jump. Come on. There you go.
Oh. He actually did. Miracle. It's a Saturnalia miracle.
So funny because we were going to go live this afternoon and then it was like, closing arguments, let's go live now.
We'll still go live. 3.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look at the cat. He's like right in front of the camera. He's like, is she going to be guilty or not?
And then he realized, yeah, he doesn't care. A dog was involved. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
There you go.
I don't want that. Just want this. Shit. Are you kidding me?
What did you do now? I'm hilarious.
God, this is.
What are you trying to do?
I'm just trying to log into Google, and this computer is so annoying.
They're old.
Yeah, because like it auto populates, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
And then I logged in, and it was like, and then it didn't save the password. Now I gotta log in again.
Yeah. Well, I think Google's changing a lot of their stuff because it keeps logging me out of these areas, like that I want to stay logged in. It's like, remember this machine forever, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. Then next time I go click on it, it logs in, and then it auto creates those profiles. So I don't know which profile, which email is logged into.
Yeah.
And I just want it all in one place, and I have a hard time with that.
Then if I just want to look at metrics, if I want to look at data, it's like, no, what's happening? No, why? Why did it go there? I just clicked on YouTube. Why in the world? All my frustrations. Switch accounts. I actually lost a subscriber.
Just now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It's really strange.
Mm-hmm. Because they're MAGA comments?
Oh, yeah, from
Putin.
About Putin. I don't remember saying anything bad about MAGA, but MAGA definitely is a cult.
Mm-hmm.
They are in a cult personality.
Okay, so is this live? Yeah, says it's live.
I know, it looks like you've got it on there twice.
I had to restart it. But the live one. Yeah, I need to.
It's so weird because I can't look at it on Twitter now.
Really?
So I don't know. I mean, it shows.
I'm viewing it right here, and I actually responded. So
Mine keeps saying, "Oops, something went wrong."
that's surprising.
That's so weird. I don't see comments either. Can you see the cat? There's the cat. Is there a cat? I don't like this. It's a cat butt.
Okay. I think I've got everything set up now.
It's like a scramble this morning.
Yeah.
We had the day all planned out, and then it was like,
That's what happens when you plan things, right?
and we lose subscribers. Okay, so it just said it ended.
Yeah, I think you're looking at the old one. But that was live.
Karen Reed trial.
You just click on the, like right there, yeah. There.
It's so strange.
It is very strange. Hey.
Hey, all right. I don't hear anything.
Oh.
I don't know if there is something to hear, but. Are they going back to sidebar? They came from a sidebar and then they're going back to sidebar.
So, so the response we got was, West Devil Media, you think you are the holy when you are full of witchcraft in your world. Shame on your.
I'm sorry. What?
That was the Putin message.
Oh, it was translated from Russian.
I bet so.
Awesome.
I just heard talking down there or something. Huh. That's right. I don't think they're talking. I'll turn this down. This doesn't blast us.
Oh, somebody did respond on this.
What's that?
Someone said that they appreciate our work.
Nice.
Somebody in Russia doesn't like our work.
You can turn yours down.
Try him.
Right here. There you go. Hey, Christy, thank you for that. We had what looks like a message from Russia that we're evil and we use witchcraft.
Trying to find it.
The message?
Yeah, the message.
So you have to go to turn off newest, or there's another filter option off to the right, and you have to turn that off to latest message or something like that. I kind of filtered it out, and I don't know why.
That is weird.
Yeah. So, Christy, where are you from? Where are you joining us from?
Yeah, I don't see that mentioned at all. If I do all, don't miss the video.
Oh. Yeah, you make sure it's newest.
South Carolina. You're close to us. We're in the metro Atlanta area.
I'm going to heart this message from them.
Okay. But I still don't see it.
Thanks, love.
Oh my God.
You're the best.
Wait till we talk about the crazy lady from Texas. Profundity. Profundity yours.
Yeah.
No, I just think criticism. Well, I think I started that podcast with hopefully the FSB downloads this. And then we start seeing the FSB like...
You said FSB 3 times.
Yeah. Like, oh, man. No.
Oh, look at the little pretty red dots all over us.
Yeah, we saw the autopsy report that was released yesterday. So we're thinking about doing a follow-up from her.
Yeah.
I just got so sick of listening to JP Miller because he just is so gross.
Yeah.
That, we did where he was releasing those TikToks on True Crime RI.
I had my narcissist rage going on.
Yeah, and it just it grossed us out so much that we had to stop. We had to walk away from it.
From him.
From him. Yeah, he was so terrible. But I think the autopsy report, going through that, I think that might be good.
So Christy, we'll probably
He did
he did Tom Rush.
He did.
I regret nothing. Or, maybe I will.
We kind of taunt everyone now. It's our
That's our shtick.
we have a hard time because we're always making fun of something and we're always going to offend someone.
Well, everything's funny to me, so
Yeah.
everything's funny.
Yeah, except JP Miller. JP Miller started out kind of funny and then he just got gross.
Yeah.
Because we kept seeing these Jim Jones parallels in the way he was talking, and it just really skeeved us out.
Okay.
And just a classic narcissism. I still can't find that message.
You're on your hunt for this comment.
I know.
So go to
I'm on my phone.
yeah. So go to you're in studio, right?
No.
Where are you?
I'm just in YouTube. I don't have. Do I have studio?
You should. If you don't, you need it.
Oh, I actually don't have it. I have Rogue Hair Studio. Best hairdresser ever. And she's an hour and a half away from me.
It's worth for the har.
Yeah. Okay, so I gotta download this app. I can't believe I don't have that.
Yeah, actually, I can't believe that either. Well, actually, now that I think about it, yeah, I can believe that you never downloaded that app.
Yeah, he is really sketchy.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. Hey, bud.
Hello. Okay. You can go ahead. We can't hear it up here.
Is that what you're worried about? Do you need help? No. Use the regular vacuum, the push vacuum.
I told him he could use the
Roomba.
Roomba if he wanted to.
Yeah. So is the is the Roomba on its charging dock? Yeah. If you put it on there, just let me know. Okay. Okay. Thank you, bud.
I have kids' summer vacation. Somebody who made a huge mess downstairs.
Did you actually look at it?
It wasn't as bad as you were saying, but
Well, I was looking at the bleach all over the windows.
Yeah.
That's the huge mess.
Well, he couldn't even find it. He was like,
the what?
The bleach.
I moved it.
No, on the windows. He was like, I don't know where.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll help him out if he needs.
Oh yeah. Hey, Christy. Thank you. Yeah. Just if you tell your friends, if you hear something that you like that we've said, just share it with your friends. That'd be great.
Yeah. Or also anything that you might want to hear too, because
any suggestions?
There's a lot of content going around right now, so it's not super difficult to find stuff, but it also helps to know what you guys are interested in.
Yeah. So if you're interested in, wait, we're back at the fan. I didn't even realize we were back at the fan.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's so funny, Christy. You'll see the fan from this, and you'll see subtitles underneath it. Like the fan is talking.
It's not this time. Apparently they fixed it. They muted the fan.
Oh, it was under the Putin video.
Yeah.
That comment. Okay, hold on. Okay.
Are you okay? blink twice if you're okay.
I'm trying to figure this. Okay, so I'm in studio now.
Okay. Coming over to help.
Comments?
No, go to content.
Content.
Click on the Inside Putin's Victory Cult of Russia.
Okay.
And go to comments there. You hit the sidebar thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Go to no.
Comments.
No, don't do it, and then you do it anyways. You're the worst. I don't know if you can actually find it here or not. Oh, that's interesting. So,
I think we're going to hear the R word in these closing arguments.
Yeah, it's live though. There's nothing we can really do about it. Yeah, but all right. Thank you so
Thanks.
much, Thorsten.
Here you go. I got it.
Well, we didn't respond. I did respond actually. I remember now. I did respond. Yeah. So it's only if you go to it. So you might want to go to the studio on your thing, and maybe that's why it's not showing.
There we
There
go.
it is. You found
Oh, yeah, finally. West Devil Media, thank you are too holy when you are full of witchcraft in your world. Shame on you is probably.
it. I'm assuming that too. Yeah.
We are full of it. Oh, because we are the devil. Yeah.
That tracks. We do have a black cat, so the witch thing definitely does track.
My God. I love, we're talking about cults all over the world, and we're the witchcraft. It's just too funny. And we also compared, some of the early stuff from 4chan and 8chan to the MAGA stuff that we're seeing.
Right.
We talked about that in the podcast also.
Yeah.
And MAGA's connection to Putin, and then Biden's connection to China. So there was a lot of stuff in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a lot of correlation and connections as well. So it's not off basis, and it's not like I pulled the stuff out of my, out of nowhere. This is all from Russia's playbook.
Yeah.
So it's
all right, so Sarah responded, that's a tough one. If I were on the jury and arguments closed today, I might have to go with not guilty, though I think she may be responsible. There are just too many issues with the prosecution witnesses to trust their presentation. And that's kind of how I'm feeling too. I feel like, was the who wore it better, Mark Furman or Proctor, right? Which made me laugh hysterically.
Chupacabra.
Yeah. Mark Furman or Chupacabra. And Mark Furman tanked that case by using the N-word over and over and over again.
Absolutely.
And OJ was clearly guilty. We knew he was guilty.
Yeah.
And the evidence was there that he was guilty. So, it is completely possible that Karen Reed is guilty, but because of Chupa Proctor, it's going to tank the case.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Because they didn't do a good job investigating.
And that's why I'm going, there's so many different possibilities in this. He could have been bitten by the dog. He could have been punched in the face by them. He could have walked outside and then got hit by her. And that's what finished him off. All of this is possible because we don't know one way or the other.
Yeah. It's such a strange case. But I don't think the Commonwealth has produced enough evidence to prove that she's guilty.
Not for the reasonable doubt.
Other than she said, I hit him to everyone.
Yeah.
But that's another thing, is that she was so drunk.
Still, that Ralph Macchio movie comes up.
Yeah.
And Christy, I don't know if you've ever seen, there's a it's Ralph Macchio is in it, but it has
My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yep. And so in My Cousin Vinny, Ralph Macchio is being confronted by the sheriff, and the sheriff's asking him questions not related, it's kind of around the fact that this guy got shot. And Ralph Macchio finally realizes, oh, you're asking me as I'm the one that did this. And he's like, I shot the guy? He's in disbelief. And then in the court, he says, that's when the suspect said, I shot the guy.
Yeah.
I shot the guy.
Yeah.
And, but what was great was Legal Eagle. Yeah. Legal Eagle was doing, lawyering it. And he was like, yep, that tracks.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what would occur in a court of law.
Yeah.
That's why you need a lawyer.
And they all got lawyers. So like on
afterwards, after he was accused. But if he was even a witness, like
no, what I'm saying is the McCabe's and the Alberts.
oh yeah.
They all got lawyers.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Which so they were criticizing
and smart.
They were criticizing Karen for getting a lawyer like right away.
Right.
But they all got lawyers right away because that's what you have to do.
It was also that scene from The Town, and you have John Hamm, and she's like, "Do I need a lawyer?" And he's like, "Well, I'm going to tell you." And they don't. Most people won't say this out loud, but if you get a lawyer, you're guilty.
Yeah.
And again, that's not true, but it's a manipulation technique.
Yeah.
This is great. Cops are great. Can't believe our son wants to be a cop.
Yeah, he told us last night he wants to be a cop. We're like, okay.
Okay, good for you, bro.
Yep. We will support you in that.
Or when you go to prison. One of the two.
It's either prison or cop. What is he, in Boston?
Exactly.
Those are your only two options.
I need to change our view is really off. Is it? No.
Doesn't look off.
It's Twitter is off. So if you change it to this scene, it cuts it. It just like, oh, you don't really need to see everything, so we're just going to cut off the bottom. Well, he probably fired all of the people that are in charge of doing live stream.
Yeah, I never was a Twitter person until I started this channel, and then
I wasn't a Facebook person either until
now
it's kind of, you have to. Man, there's. I thought our screen was bright. Their screen is super bright.
Mm-hmm. Oh, are they moving?
No, nothing.
Is the fan?
Just the fan.
The fan is moving. The fan's dancing.
It just wants to be heard. It wants to be loved.
That fan cracks me up.
Well, we're gonna have a spin-off series is already in place for the Karen Read trial fan.
Yeah.
It's the lives and loves of the fan as it travels the world.
You think so? I think it's more of like it's going to provide its own commentary channel on the judge.
Oh, that's what we should do, is just have the fan.
The fan provides the commentary.
And you do the voice, when you put your face in the fan and you do the weird robotic
When
voice.
you were a little kid, yeah. Kids don't know that joy these days. Summer fan talks.
Yeah.
Wait, there we go. There, it's talking right there. Right there.
What was it?
It said right there.
Yep. The receiver. That's it. Talk to me. Talk to me, fan. Tell me what I need to know. Oh. Nope. Hey.
They're just messing with us.
See, this is how religions start.
Over worship of the fan.
Burning bushes, talking fans. Right. Ooh.
You got the sound on.
I do, but let's see what happens. I might have to fix it.
All persons have any business before the Honorable Beverly Cannoni, Justice of the Norfolk Superior Court in the Fudley County of Norfolk. Draw near, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This court is now open. You may be seated.
Maybe not.
22117, the Commonwealth
Here we
versus
go.
Karen Read.
All right, good morning again, counsel. Good morning, Ms. Reed. Good morning, jurors.
Yes.
I don't know how many times I start in the morning by saying we appreciate your patience, but today is one of those days. Again, we appreciate your patience. You may notice that one of your fellow jurors is not sitting with us today. I can assure you that that is because of an issue that is just personal to that juror and has nothing to do with any concern of any of these.
Wow.
Another juror out?
Yeah.
I do have to ask you those 3 questions. Were you able to follow the instructions?
I'm gonna go turn that off downstairs.
Discussing this case with anyone since we left yesterday? Everyone said yes and nodded affirmatively. Were you also able to follow the instructions and refrain from doing any independent?
Hey, Chrissy, are you seeing this okay? Like, the screen looks good?
hear or read anything about this case since we left here yesterday. So now we're at the point of the trial where the lawyers get to do their closing arguments for you. I've given them each an hour to do so, and they both tell me that they want me to give a 5-minute warning. I just don't want you to think I'm scolding them when I give a 5-minute warning, so we'll let them do that. When I was a trial lawyer, I tried a lot of cases in this courtroom. The thing I liked least about the trial was just before I stood up to give my closing argument, the judge would say, jurors, remember, closing arguments are not evidence. But it's true. So because of that, you have to put your notebooks away. All right, so if you just put your notebooks away and just listen, and though the closing arguments are not evidence, they're certainly a very important part of the case. And you've all seen how hard the lawyers have worked for this long period of time. We've all noticed that you've paid great attention throughout the entire trial. I'd ask that you extend your courtesy to the closing arguments. And in Massachusetts, because the Commonwealth has the burden of proof, the Commonwealth goes last. So we will hear now from Mr. Jackson.
That's weird.
Wow.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Jeez.
Look the other way. Look the other way. 4 words that sum up the Commonwealth's entire case. 4 words that sum up the hopes of those who have tried to deceive you.
Oh, he wants attention.
Conflicts of interest? Doesn't matter. Just look the other way. Magic hairs, magic glass. Look the other way. Late night calls and Google searches, falsified affidavits, inverted videos, and butt dials galore. Just look the other way. That's what they want. That's what they're counting on, but the uncontrovertible
That's good, buddy. I'm more
have been lied to in this courtroom.
worried about you cleaning up.
And your job is to make sure you don't
So don't worry
ever,
about the bugs.
ever look the other way. Your singular duty is to stare down the evidence and do it unflinchingly and do it unwaveringly. You see, you're the only thing standing between Karen Reed and the tyranny of injustice. It's your job you didn't ask for, probably a job you didn't want, but it's the greatest responsibility we have as citizens here in America.
Vacuum. Use the vacuum.
Lest the government stop answering to us
There's one down here.
and we start answering to the government. And low betide any one of us, who might find ourselves in the crosshairs of a Michael Proctor.
I understand your
Preparing for today, I was reminded of a quote. It's a quote about the truth,
yeah.
and I want to share it with you.
Separate?
It is of great importance to set a resolution never to tell an untruth.
Really?
There is no vice so mean, so
Getting rid of
pitiful,
bugs.
so contemptible,
Okay.
and those who permit themselves to tell a lie once find it much easier to do it a second time and a third.
Yeah.
Don't
Please don't.
do
This
that.
falsehood of the tongue
I know you're
leads to
joking
that
now.
of the heart,
Okay.
and in time, it depraves all its good dispositions. What does that mean? It means that it's been observed that to tell an untruth, to exaggerate, to make a false claim, it's a cancer. One lie begets another, and it's a malignancy that grows over time. And that, folks, is how a cover-up is born. That's how a Massachusetts state trooper says in whispered tones to his friends when he thought no one was looking or listening, how he would make a case.
Use the word.
Make it cut and dry, no matter the truth. How he would make sure to put, quote, serious charges on the girl. In other words, pin it on the girl. You may ask yourself, how does this happen? How could this happen? It's 2024. Surely people aren't going to come to this courtroom, this hall of justice, and lie to us, just give us false information. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't try to cover up the truth. The Alberts, the McCabe's, Higgins, Lank, Michael Proctor, Yuri Buchanan, Brian Tully.
They can't handle the truth.
You don't have to wonder if they would lie to support their narrative.
No, you know I had to go
You need
there.
only wonder how many times they did lie. Over and over and over, they and others were caught deceiving you. Big things, small things, it didn't really matter. They feared nothing. They'll look you in the eye and deny phone calls. They'll deny secret meetings. They'll claim that calls are butt dials and butt dials are answered. They'll show you a video and tell you left is right and right is left. they'll magically turn 3 pieces of plastic into 5 right before your eyes. And even when they're caught with their own lies, they won't blink, they don't sweat. They'll just look you in the eye and demand, pay no attention. You folks look the other way.
It's a good message.
Ladies and gentlemen,
He's a
there
good
was
lawyer.
cover-up in this case. plain
If he
and
went
simple.
second,
You'll surely say to yourself, I don't want to believe
Karen
it.
Reed would, I
don't wanna
think
believe
this
that
would be
can
a
happen
cut
in
and
our
dry.
community. But sadly, over the past 8 weeks, you've seen it right before your eyes. So
Even if
how
you're
does a
guilty.
cover-up happen? How could that happen? Well, let's count the ways, shall we? Handpick your investigator. Make sure it's someone we know, someone on our side. Keep him close. Offer him help. Offer him a gift. Have secret friends and family meetings. Get your story straight. Delete
like
your
I've seen from
call
Hamilton.
history. Make mysterious phone calls at 2:22 a.m. Delete Google searches. Monitor police activity. Get rid of evidence. Get rid of your dog. Destroy your phones. Destroy your SIM card. For the investigator, decide on a narrative early on. Don't go to the crime scene. Don't take witnesses in for questioning. Question all the witnesses together. Ignore witnesses who don't fit your narrative. Allow friends and family to contact those same witnesses. Don't record interviews. Write vague and false police reports. Omit witnesses' names. Omit witnesses' interviews altogether. Don't photograph the evidence. Don't conduct any forensics. Don't document the evidence. Don't document the logs. Don't create any logs whatsoever, and don't maintain a chain of custody. Keep all the evidence in the hands of one person, and then manipulate that evidence, including videos. Don't turn over videos. Invert videos. Turn 4:16 p.m. into 5:30 p.m. in affidavits. Turn 3 pieces of taillight into 5 pieces of taillight. Delete 42 minutes of surveillance footage. Hide personal relationships. Make this case cut and dry, and ensure the homeowner, quote, never sees any shit because he's a Boston cop.
Yep.
But most importantly, pick your patsy and pin it on the girl. It's not that it could happen. It's that every single one of those things I just mentioned did happen right in front of you.
Yeah, that's a good
But
point.
this sort of
too.
injustice can't happen in a vacuum. So what about the prosecution? What about the Commonwealth? What does it look like when the government picks a narrative and then tries to form a prosecution around the narrative instead of the other way around? Looks a lot like this. If you don't have actual evidence, just throw every single thing you can against the wall to see what sticks. Drag her through the mud and make
Oh,
sure
hello, Mia.
you attack her character. And that's what you saw in this case. The Commonwealth spent much of their time and resources trying to vilify Karen Reed. They desperately resorted to calling witnesses to talk about Karen Reed and John O'Keefe's arguments. They even stooped so low as to call the children and put them through this ordeal. All to say that John sometimes got upset because Karen was too kind, too nice, spoiled them too much. Their arguments illustrated what anybody could imagine is a normal set of ups and downs for any couple. Even on January 28th, they talked it out, they communicated, they worked out their issues, and they had a nice, affectionate evening out with their friends. And you don't have to take my word for it. Pull the tape, as they say. Look at the videos. C.F. McCarthy, Waterfall. What are the words that every single person who testified in this case used about Karen Reed and John O'Keefe that night?
Whack job.
Getting along, no issues, good mood, happy, affectionate, even lovey-dovey. No issues, no toxicity. They were a loving couple right up into the time Karen Reed dropped him off and he walked into 34 Fairview. If an argument with a loved one is a motive for murder, folks, we're all in trouble. Speaking of which, what is the evidence that John went into the house? The Commonwealth will tell you, undoubtedly, no, he never went in the house. And they'll point to certain witnesses who they say didn't see him go in. Well, the question you have to ask yourself is, can you rely on that? First, these are all people who are related to or committed to the Alberts in some way or another. That all-powerful Canton family, it's easy to say, I didn't see something, because how can that really be challenged? Exactly. Some actually may not have seen John walk into the house. They were in the kitchen, as you recall, from Nicole. Third, at least one witness, Brian Higgins, forgot his narrative, at least for a second, and he admitted a man did, in fact, come into the house. And then when he was caught and asked to describe that man, he had to. It was a little bit vague, but you remember what he said. He was tall, with dark hair. That was a telling slip of the tongue by Brian Higgins. But what's the real evidence of the unbiased data, the data that's not connected to the Albert family? How about John's Apple Health data? It shows that at 12:21 a.m., an important time, John arrived. That's established by the monotonic time clock that you heard about in this trial that was on his phone, and that represents a huge problem for the Commonwealth. It shows that he took 80 steps and ascended or descended 3 flights of stairs at that time.
Wow.
And that makes perfect sense, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
That was like,
Matches.
to me,
Walks
big
into
thing.
The house, goes directly to the basement.
And that's why I
There's
looked up what
steps,
metatonic was,
descending
like, and
flights of
that
stairs.
matters.
The big problem for the Commonwealth is he wasn't outside at the car ascending and descending stairs, wasn't climbing on top of the car. So they'll tell you, wait, don't look at the Apple Health data, look at this other thing.
Waze.
Called
And Waze doesn't
Waze.
show you height.
But Rick Green explained that if you apply the 3-minute offset that is built into that monatomic time, it aligns perfectly. They don't want you to see that. They don't want you to pay attention. They want you to look the other way. But even more importantly, at approximately 12:32 a.m., someone holding John's phone takes another 36 steps and travels 25 meters. Why is that so important? Because by 12:32
It's
a.m.,
75 feet.
Karen Reed was gone. She had already left the location. She left at 12:30.
Yeah.
Trooper Garino told you
Yeah.
that Karen Reed's phone connected to John's Wi-Fi at what time? 12:36. It is undisputed in this case.
So
that
he's
it's a
walking around
6-minute
with his
drive on a good
Apple
day
Watch.
from 34 Fairview
Or
over to
phone.
Meadows.
Or phone. Wow. One of the two.
She was gone by 12:30.
And she wasn't
And
even
John's
there.
phone
And
was
her
taking 36
her phone
steps
connected to
and
his
logging 25
Wi-Fi
meters at 12:32
after while he's walking
she
around
left.
at the
So
property.
don't be fooled. John walked into that house, after which Karen drove away, and the scientific data all prove it.
I love that.
Also, Ryan
Man,
Hagel and Heather
what
Maxson,
are their mother
in addition to
mother
the
like?
Apple
She
Health
seems
data, Ryan and
horrible.
Heather both
She's like a
independently
hydra.
testified that they passed Karen's SUV as they drove away after talking to Julie. And Karen was alone in the SUV. John was not with her. He wasn't in the car. He wasn't standing outside the car. He wasn't sitting beside the car. He wasn't laying on the ground beside the car. He was nowhere in sight. There's only one other place that John could have been, and that's in the house.
Oh.
Exactly
one
where
of
the
that.
Apple Health data places him. So it all fits.
The stairs.
And Ryan was right behind her, remember, staring at her taillights, undamaged, brightly lit. That brings up another difficulty for the Commonwealth, and that's their star witness, Jennifer McCabe. You'll recall that Jennifer
like
McCabe
sitting
claimed
right
that
there.
she was looking out the
Is she?
door, staring at that
she's like
SUV
right-
over
see that
and
bald
over
guy?
and
She's
over
next to
again
him.
from 12:29 to 12:50. She was very specific about that time frame. But
She in
we
front of
know
him or to
that
the left?
SUV
She's
was
to the-
gone from
to the
34
right.
Fairview.
You can't see her. She's
Oh,
on
oh,
screen.
oh, gotcha.
Had to be in order to connect to the Wi-Fi at 12:36.
Yeah.
So unequivocally,
Well, of course, it's not just
Jennifer McCabe was
remodeled.
lying about
They sold
watching
the
that
house
SUV, and it makes
at a
you
loss.
wonder why.
They dug up
And
the
to add to
basement,
that deceit, she was
concrete,
also blatantly lying
and also
about
rehomed the dog.
calls to John's phone. You remember that?
which
calls
is
back
normal.
and
That's
forth.
what we do every time that,
She
you
said
know,
that every single one of
police
those
find
calls
someone
to
in our
John's
front
phone
yard.
at
Right.
that time was a butt dial.
that's just standard
How are
operating
those lines
procedure.
connected? And why are they connected? Jennifer McCabe knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was she butt dialing John over and over? Or
No.
was someone looking for John's phone that went missing?
Ooh.
Let's talk for a second about what actually happened in the time.
'Cause it was
leading up
underneath
to
him.
everyone
Underneath him.
Going to 34 Fairview.
Where's his phone? I
Brian
don't
Albert,
know.
Brian Higgins show up drunk at the waterfall. They had been drinking in the afternoon. You know about the flirtatious texts that were sent between Karen Reed and Brian. Higgins was clearly pining over Karen, but for her, the flirtation had ran its course. It was done. She was happy and committed to John. You could see that in her actions with John that night. You don't have to guess. Brian Higgins, however, you can see in his actions, he wasn't quite so satisfied and he wasn't done.
Ooh.
His text message, well, meaning, what the hell, Karen? What about me?
What the hell,
Seemed aggressive,
Karen?
He seemed annoyed. He didn't like being ignored. That was pretty clear.
Ooh.
So he's 5 or 6 whiskeys deep into the night by this time, and she
God, that sounds
continued
amazing right
to
now.
ignore
No.
him. Then
It's only
oddly,
10:30.
Higgins, who doesn't know John all that well,
So you think 1031's
seems to
okay?
have coached John to 34 Fairview. I draw your attention to the waterfall tape if you want to take another look.
I
at
wanna
it.
become a
It's
waterfall
11
puddle, that's for sure.
11:57 mark. Between
All the
11:57 and
Boston words we
11:58.
learned
Take a
from
look
this
at
case.
that tape.
It's awesome.
He's just about to lead. Higgins is just about to lead. He points over at John and he motions for him. Come on. Come on. Come with me.
Oh, he's
And then
saying
at
Higgins.
12:20, he texts him, "You coming here?" This is a person he doesn't really know and didn't really talk to that entire
Not
night.
an Albert.
Ask yourself,
Yeah.
why was Higgins so insistent that John go to 34 Fairview that night? And then there's that sparring and fighting that he and Brian Albert were engaged in.
So
Of
they
all
were
the things
fighting
they could
too.
be doing,
What? Why?
this is what they were doing just minutes before John O'Keefe walked into that house at 34 Fairview. We know that once John actually did walk in the door, it's about 2 steps, 4 feet or so, 2 steps for an adult male to reach that basement door. Remember, everybody was gathered in the kitchen. That's what Nicole Albert said. And every single witness agreed that at some point, Brian Higgins and Brian Albert left the group and went to another room. Where did they go? Where did they go together?
So maybe the people in the house
Another
don't
important
know.
Yeah.
Chloe was
Oh.
not upstairs. Brian Albert slipped in one of his testimony that he provided. Quote, "I was watching Chloe downstairs, monitoring her.
Close the
because of
dog.
other people in the house. She's not good with strangers." Remember that testimony. So what happened next? We absolutely know that John was in the house. The data, Ryan, Heather, they all established that. We know that John ascended or descended stairs. We know that Brian Higgins and Brian Albert excused
Yeah, why are the
themselves.
McCabe's there?
How long
They
does
were
it
just having a
take
party.
No.
to have a cross?
Oh, I-
There.
How long
They have
does it
nothing to
take
do with
have a
this.
fight? How long would it take for Brian Higgins to say to John,
In my opinion.
"You know, your girl's been texting me"?
Ooh.
A push, a punch.
Oh, come on. You got to say it in a Boston accent, though.
He's not from Boston,
Chloe
though.
off his arm,
I know, but I would do it.
and now it's done.
That's also why I'm not a lawyer. So.
Seconds, 10, doesn't take long at all. And then the panic sets in. It wasn't intended to go that far.
It's 4
but
p.m.
what's done is
somewhere.
done.
Yeah.
And then some very, very odd things start happening at the Albert household. Very odd indeed. What do we know? We know through the testimony and key swipes that Brian Higgins very oddly goes directly to Canton Police Department. Why would he do that? After a night of drinking and partying, why go to CPD when you're drunk? What was so important there? He couldn't even get his own story straight. First he said it was administrative work, then he said he was moving cars, then he said it was a factor of both. Is it both? Was it neither? Or was he there to gather intel? Ask yourself, why go?
I didn't know
The
about
odd
that
things
either.
keep piling up, and here's another. Chloe was the Albert family pet. Not only did she appear to be gone from the house that morning on January 29th, nobody saw her there. Even Jim McCabe admitted, "Yeah, I didn't see her there." But they actually got rid of the dog altogether. Within months of this incident, the dog was gone, out of the house, rehomed, never to be seen again. This was a dog they had had for 7 years. Also a dog who had a bite history. Why was it so important to get rid of that dog? Was there something about the dog they did not want law enforcement to find out? Recall what Dr. Russell said. She's seen up to 1,000 animal attacks. In her expert opinion, John's right arm, those injuries are from an animal, quote, most likely a large dog. And Dr. Russell's testimony, I'll remind you, was undisputed by any witness for the Commonwealth. But there are more odd and unexplained things. After a night of drinking and hanging out and partying, After being together for the entire day, at 2:22 a.m., Brian Albert decides to call Brian Higgins. That call was missed, but 17 seconds later, Higgins calls Brian back, and they speak for 22 seconds. Now, that call is odd and suspicious enough, in and of itself, the fact that the call was made.
Christy,
But what's even
no,
more
they
incriminating
didn't,
is that both men,
because
both of
that's
them,
been proven to
lied about the
be
calls happening.
inaccurate
They both
science.
claim astonishingly
So
that those
bite marks
calls
are always
you probably say it with me,
questionable,
They're
extremely
butt dials.
questionable.
amazing.
So they couldn't actually match. Even if they
Now,
did
Albert
match
Higgins,
it,
take it a
you
step
could
further.
match up
Not only did
probably
they
6 or
claim
7 dogs
they
that
were
would
making
match
calls as butt dials,
those bite
but
marks.
they were
And they
answering
didn't find any
calls
DNA,
as butt
dog
dials.
Dog
DNA.
DNA, but they found pig
And Higgins
DNA,
seemed
which is always
awfully
the weird
defensive
thing.
about
Yeah.
that call, didn't he? Remember on cross-examination when I was asking,
And I still
can
love
we
the
have a
joke that
conversation in 22
They found
seconds?
pig DNA on the cop.
And
It's like,
unequivocally
come
said, no,
on.
that's impossible. It's not reasonable. You can't do it.
Shake your hand. You know it's funny.
Well, let's test that out. Hey, did you make it over to Canton? Yep. Haven't been any calls. Nobody knows a thing. All right, don't talk to anybody until we talk again. Okay, fine. And by the way, come back over. I need help moving something heavy. How long did that take? 15 seconds? Maybe? But the odd behavior isn't done yet. 5 minutes
22
after
seconds is a lot
that
of.
call
You can give a
we
lot of
just talked
information in
about,
22 seconds.
Jennifer McCabe is on her phone at her house, Google searching how long it takes for someone to die in the cold. That was at 2:27 a.m. That timeline seems to fit, doesn't it? And it fits a very telling and a very clear story. That search became a focal point of the Commonwealth's entire case. This case was starting to look a lot more like the defense of Jennifer McCabe than anything else. That's probably because there is no innocent explanation for that Google search at 2:27 a.m. None. At the end of the day, clearing away all the confusion, the Commonwealth's experts were left with two things that are true. First, neither of their experts could absolutely rule out that Jennifer McCabe made that search at 2:27 a.m. Neither. And second, the only person to use the actual phone model, the actual data, and the actual precise operating system was Rick Green. And he was clear. That search was at or before 2:27 a.m. And then it was deleted.
The
So what
deletion
else was
part,
going on
that's the part that gets me.
At or around this same time, when all this suspicious activity was happening at the Albert house and the McCabe house. 3 minutes after that search, and 8 minutes after the Albert Higgins 2:22 a.m. call, Brian Loughran drives down the street in his snowplow.
Rinkin truck.
There is no body laying on the lawn at 34 Fairview at 2:30 in the morning.
So one of the things I saw was
Importantly, he
the
didn't just simply
recreation
say
video
he didn't
of
see a
like
body, he wasn't paying
where
attention.
they say he
said
was
there
and how
was
she
no
would have hit
body
him
there.
and all
He
this
knows the
other stuff.
property, he knows the owners,
And the body-
he's grown up with these folks.
You would have
he
seen it,
passes
like-
by all the time, not
As
once,
soon as the
not
truck-
twice,
yeah.
Yeah.
3 passes. There was nobody on that lawn, period, at 2:30 a.m. And what other suspicious thing happened that night? By 3:30 a.m., someone moved a Ford Edge in front of the very area that would obstruct the view of where John's body would ultimately be discovered. Who's the only person in this case that you've heard about with a Ford Edge?
Well, please.
Brian Albert. Remember, as you're thinking about this, the basement at 34 Fairview is serviced by a bulkhead. It's a quick and convenient door to the backyard. And that backyard is serviced by a side fence.
I didn't know about
Side
that.
fence is easily accessible to the front yard at the side of the house. Which side of the house? The side where John's body was found. And by 6 a.m., John's body was, in fact,
So falls
Now
down in the
outside.
basement, blood everywhere in the basement. They pull
Well,
him
this
up
flurry
out
of
the back,
suspicious activity
and
that's
nobody
going
sees him
on with the
inside.
Alberts and the
Yep.
McCabe's. What's happening with Karen?
That's
All she
interesting.
knows at this point, think about it, at approximately 2:21, she dropped off John, he walked into 34 Fairview, and that's all she knows. She knows nothing else that was going on. So what was she left to think? He goes in to check the party out, but all of a sudden he's not coming back, he's not responding. Minutes start to pass, 1 minute turns to 2, 2 turn to 10. Where is he? Why isn't he responding? She's sitting in the cold, dark, freezing outside in the car. Naturally, she's perturbed. Being perturbed turns into being peeved. Being peeved eventually turns into being pissed. By 12:30,
Yeah,
Karen's
she's pissed
mad.
because he's not responding.
She's left
Yeah.
34
To her
Fairview
text.
to make a point, but she's still texting and calling. What could she reasonably be thinking at this point? What's going through her
that
mind?
he's with someone
12:33
else.
turns
Yep.
into 12:34. I
That's
can't
actually a
believe you
good,
do this.
really good point.
12:34 turns into 12:35. Where is he? Why aren't you answering, John? 12:35 turns to 12:36. Jesus Christ. I'm calling and you're not answering. Where are you? Pick up the phone.
Yep.
But there's still no answer. There's still no response. By 12:37, she's getting furious. She does not know that something has happened to John. She does not know that. So she leaves the first angry voicemail. Illustrates frustration, aggravation, all the normal responses anybody might have, you and I might have. But little did she know. The next open voicemail has Karen parking at John's garage after she gets home. You can hear her heels clicking across the garage floor. For all she knows at this point, John's just drunk, he's been partying, he's hanging out, just forgot about her, blowing her off. But John's still not responding, and as the minutes tick by, Karen becomes increasingly upset. Those are the voicemails that you heard.
Dramatic zoom.
How could he do this? Why is he ignoring me? Why is he ignoring the kids? Those are the thoughts bearing down on Karen Reed.
Yeah, I think because
As
she was
sat in an
yelling
empty
at him.
house late at night
Kids are
by
all freaking
herself.
alone.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, she did not know what had happened to John. But within the next voicemail, you quickly learn what she was thinking and what she was feeling. Now it's 5:23 a.m. She's woken up, she's realized that he hasn't come home and he hasn't responded to a single text, not a single call. And anger quickly turns to panic and abject fear. She's so distraught, she reaches out to him again. John, where the fuck are you? She says through tears and desperation. And at 6:03, her question was answered, and her worst fears are realized when she finds his body laying, dying in the cold in Brian Albert's front yard. You heard her. You can feel the grief. You can feel the raw anguish. You could see it. You don't have to wonder the emotional journey that Karen traveled that night. You can see it in the video. You can hear it in the audio. From the time he left her and walked into 34 Fairview and she called, she reached out 53 times.
53
She
times.
called him 53 times before finding his body. Think about that. The Commonwealth wants you to believe that she murdered this man. And then after that murder, she called him not once, not twice, 53 times. It makes no sense. What does make
She
sense
just was making sure she had an
is that
alibi.
she emotionally moved from anger
53 times.
then to panic, then to grief. So back at 5:07, when she began her search looking for John, she backed out of the garage, and what would happen next would change the entire course of this case. As she backed out of that garage, she hit John's Traverse and cracked her right rear taillight. Folks, the Commonwealth has one job to do in this courtroom. It's an immutable responsibility to provide you with the truth. That's it. Not to win the case, but to seek justice and to do it through the truth. Ask yourself, did you get that truth from the Commonwealth? The Commonwealth continually tried to tell you that that video showed that the SUV came close to John's Traverse, and it took us showing you the video to unequivocally establish that Karen hit that car and cracked her taillight at 5:07. You can almost hear an audible gasp in the courtroom when we finally showed you the actual video. You can see that tire moving. I'm only going to show you one series of exhibits during my entire closing, but it's that important. And it's this. Look at the condition of her taillight when she pulls out of the driveway at 5:07.
Yeah, what?
That taillight, and I'm going to choose my words very carefully here. That taillight is cracked, but it's not completely damaged. And
Nope.
if there was any question in your mind about the level of damage to that taillight at 5:07, all doubt was extinguished
That's it.
when Dighton police officer Barrows walked into this
That is
courtroom
The whole
He's a
case,
sworn
right
officer.
there.
He's not associated with Canton. He's not associated with the Alberts. He's not associated with the McCabe's. He doesn't know Michael Proctor. In other words, he doesn't answer to any of these folks. He's an outsider and he's completely independent. And his words were the following, quote, "That taillight was not completely damaged. It was cracked. A piece was missing, but not completely damaged." Take a look at this photograph and tell me, which one looks like Officer Barros's description? The one on the left or the one on the right? The reconstructed light on the left is what that light looked like before it was in Trooper Proctor's possession. Remember that. That's what it looked like before Trooper Proctor had access to the SUV. And you have an independent police officer
I
telling
believe
you
that. You saw it in the picture.
You'll
Like you
recall
say
that
it.
after John's body was discovered, Lank,
Wow.
a very good friend of the Alberts, walked into Brian Albert's house and had an off-the-record meeting with him. No one's ever going to know exactly what that meeting was about, what they discussed, because that interview, like everything else in this case, it wasn't recorded. It wasn't memorialized. But we do know that shortly thereafter, the Canton Police Department was recused from the matter entirely. And the case was assigned to one Michael Proctor. You have to believe that when the Alberts found that out, they thought they hit the lottery.
Yep.
They thought they hit the lottery. What are the chances? The department where my brother works, that would have been great to investigate this case, but that department's been recused. That's tough luck. But the guy who catches the case is Michael Proctor, a guy we go back with for decades. At such a break, they probably thought, when this is over, we need to get that dude a gift. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't think that.
They did do
They
that.
They
said
said it out loud.
Jeez.
But still, you've got to imagine that the Alberts had to be stressed, what with that whole thing about a dead body being on their lawn. That might get some attention, and they had to be wondering, will he set up a crime scene? Is he going to come into the house? Is he going to search the house? Is he going to send in a forensics team? Is he going to interview witnesses?
Nope.
Is he going to take us to the station?
Nope.
Will he take our phones? Will he look at our communications?
Nope.
Will he look at our Google searches?
Nope. Didn't do
Look
any
at
of
our early morning phone calls. Is he going to look in the basement? And Michael Proctor answered every single one of those questions resoundingly. Nope. He's a Boston cop too. And with that, Michael Proctor didn't draw a thin blue line. He erected a tall blue wall. A wall that you can't scale. A wall that Karen Reed certainly couldn't get over. A wall between us and them. A place you folks are not invited. We protect our own. It's us or it's them. And by the way, who's she after all? Nobody. An outsider. This is going to be easy. Or so they thought. Let's look at what Michael Proctor actually did and did not do in this case. One of the consistent issues that's come up throughout this trial is how evidence always seems to be changing and evolving when in Michael Proctor's hands or somebody in his orbit. If it happens once, let's chalk it up to a mistake. Twice, it's starting to look a little bit like incompetence. If that happens every single time, it becomes intentional, which means it becomes corruption. The defense spent some time, we spent some time discussing the tow time that Michael Proctor swore to in affidavits. There was a reason that we believed it was so important, and I want to talk about that for just a quick second. Because this was a concerted effort by Michael Proctor to falsify the time the car was seized, so that no one would know that he actually had possession of the car before the first pieces of taillight were ever discovered at the scene. But he got caught. And when he did, the best he could come up with was it was a typo. Like a dozen times, a typo. You'll remember what that testimony was. The truth is that car was in Michael Proctor's possession from about 4:12 in the afternoon. He said it was 4:16 when he finally had to tell the truth or some version of the truth. Those first pieces of taillight were not found until after 5:45 p.m. That is the very fact that Michael Proctor was trying to hide by those falsified affidavits, saying he didn't seize the car until 5:30. But that wasn't Michael Proctor's only manipulation of the investigation. What about Brian Loughran? You met him. Michael Proctor did his level best to not just hide evidence, but to hide human beings from you and from us. Michael Proctor was informed that the plow drivers were out that night. There would be a witness, potentially along 34 Fairview, at the exact times in question. Even Michael Trotta expressly told Michael Proctor that 34 Fairview had in fact been plowed that morning, and by whom. Proctor not only did not interview Brian Loughran, he never disclosed his name in a single report. He hid him.
Wow.
This is a witness who was literally on 34 Fairview at the time in question where a body was found on the lawn. Wouldn't you want to get the truth from an eyewitness? Wouldn't you want to seek that out? Not if you're Michael Proctor, a close friend of the Alberts. If it were up to Proctor, you literally never would have heard of or from Brian Loughran. That's a scary prospect. I want to touch briefly on the additional physical evidence, or some additional physical evidence presented by the Commonwealth in this case. You'll recall Christina Hanley. She established to a scientific certainty that the glass on the bumper, which was told to you in opening statement, was going to have something to do with this case. The glass on the bumper was going to match that cocktail glass. She told you unequivocally the glass on the bumper did not match the cocktail glass. They came from two different sources. The glass on the bumper has nothing to do with the cocktail glass. So that glass on the bumper had to get there somehow. It didn't get there by being broken from the cocktail glass. See the point? It had to get on the bumper somehow. It didn't jump up there by itself. And what's really interesting is that there was one piece on the bumper, one, only one, that matched something else in the case. It was a perfect match to a piece of glass that was supposedly found at the scene. Who do you think had possession of that matching glass? Michael Proctor. So the glass on the bumper had to be placed there.
So they collected evidence of the scene, categorized it, and then it wound up on the bumper.
Had to be placed there.
I guess.
Is Michael Proctor. You do the math. That leads us to the magic hair. The Commonwealth spent a lot of time bringing in experts about mitochondrial DNA and maternal DNA lines and comparative analyses, and all that sounds really great and really sciencey, except for the fact that it just doesn't matter. Why? Because you would have to believe that that little hair, tiny, tiny little hair, barely perched on the side of that SUV through survived nearly 75 miles of a raging blizzard outside.
Yeah, I don't know, Christy, if...
Yeah, the Commonwealth is going to go.
No, rebuttal.
That magic hair means nothing.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
DNA
Yeah.
means nothing. And that's
I know in Idaho there was.
was from somewhere else. It certainly was
For
not
the
from
Daybell
Motor
trial, they
Vehicle
had a
Incident
they
34
were
February,
able to do
January
rebuttal.
29th. That hair was placed there. The DNA on the outside of the taillight housing also merits very little discussion. John's DNA would be expected to be found all over that SUV, inside, outside, the exterior, the interior,
Yeah.
everything he touched would have had his DNA on it. Here's what's actually important about that DNA. No DNA was found on the interior of that taillight. The taillight that they now claim crashed into his arm and shattered.
Yeah, he's a
No
good
blood was
attorney.
found
He
anywhere
really
on that
is.
taillight or any taillight pieces. And no tissue was found anywhere on that taillight or any taillight pieces. But we're to believe that that taillight literally exploded on John's arm at
I feel like he's
25
the only
miles an
one
hour
in this
1,000-pound
this
pressure.
whole thing that's actually doing a good job.
We talked about the evidence doing very funny things when in
Well,
Proctor's
and the other
possession
attorney,
or the
her
possession of
attorney.
somebody in his orbit. Now think about the videos that you saw. How many videos appear to be somehow manipulated or altered? Just about every single one of them.
That's why he's got the fancy
Look at
suits
the video
on.
of the Sally port. Let's take that one for example. That grainy one.
Yeah,
It's
you didn't
missing
notice
the
if he's
exact time
what he's
that we
wearing on
show
his
the
right wrist.
condition of the taillight
What is it? What is it? I
when
saw
was
it just a
pulled
second
in
ago.
To the Sally port. Pretty important.
Well, he's got
time,
his
don't you
Rolex
think?
on.
Oh yeah.
Did someone
don't-
not want you to see what the condition of the taillight was at that exact time? But the good news is there's a second video. It's much clearer. And it's from the same time frame. We didn't get that one for about 2.5 years into the investigation. Literally, it was after the trial started. that one was turned over.
Wow.
And this is important. The Commonwealth introduced you to a person by the name of Yuri Buchanan. They presented video showing what was clearly the right side of the car. They asked questions about the right side of the car. You'll recall, Mr. Lally asked Sergeant Buchanan, did you or Trooper Proctor ever go at, or near the right side of that taillight? And while he was asking the question, what appeared to be the right side of the car was looking at you. The video was still up. Buchanan paused, turned earnestly into the microphone, stared at you and said, never. We never went anywhere around that taillight. While he was showing you the right side of the car. And that trick might have worked until we got up to cross-examine him. And only then, on the second day of his testimony, did he have to admit that the video was actually inverted. It was backward. And it was cleverly inverted at that. The timestamp had the proper orientation, which means that timestamp had to be removed, the video inverted, and the timestamp placed back on it. Which means that was done intentionally. That was not a mistake.
I don't know.
And when caught in that obvious fabrication,
If you reverse the
Buchanan
video
doubled
footage,
down and said, it's
the
exactly
timestamp would
same.
have
You
would have been
remember that
reversed
back and forth.
too.
It's exactly
That's the only way
same,
you could
he
have
said.
made that happen.
As if we're stupid.
So they edited the
Is
video.
it exactly the same, or is it exactly opposite? Ladies and gentlemen, you were lied to. There is no other way to say it. It's inexcusable. It's abhorrent. But it's also a paradigm of everything that the investigators have been willing to do in this case. Lie, obfuscate, manipulate, alter.
So they
And when they're
altered.
caught, they
That
just
is,
excuse it away.
if they altered that, what
Matter,
else?
it's
What
the
else
same
would he
thing. What's
alter?
the big
Yep.
deal? Just look the other way.
Yep.
And don't forget, Buchanan is Proctor's supervisor. And he was in that little group chat where Karen Reed's naked photos were being searched for. You know the saying about the apple falling from the tree. Ladies and gentlemen, we haven't even started talking about
That's
the
how you
taillight.
invent gravity.
You'll recall that at the very beginning of this case, you were introduced to no fewer
Did I get
than
that right?
5
You know what they
CPD
say.
officers very early on who
Apples
searched the
have
scene.
worms
None of
and
them, not a single
birds get
one,
there early.
found any
Is that what they
taillight
say about
material
apples?
at the scene. Zero. Stephen Seraph, Sean Good, Stephen Mullaney, Michael Lank, Paul Gallagher, they were all there. They were all walking right around there. They were all looking. They were searching with their eyes. They were searching with their hands. Some said they were searching with their feet. They even used tools, a leaf blower. Not one piece of bright red taillight material was at the scene, not a single piece, but incredibly, over the course of the next 3 weeks, according to Michael Proctor, 47 pieces of taillight material would end up being found, some of which were the size of a salad plate. The CERT team shows up later on January 29th, and according
Well,
to O'Hara, the first
could
few
be
pieces
big
of taillight
salad.
were found about 5:45.
Like big salads.
And here's some interesting testimony that you heard. Who else was there? Who did O'Hara say was there? Well, he said his team was there. We certainly expected that, but then he said there were others. These other mysterious figures, some from Canton PD, some from the Massachusetts State Police, that he could not account for.
Why is Canton PD there? They've been recused. They should have been offside.
Heavy
Yeah.
coats, big masks, hats. Even Lieutenant O'Hara could not tell who was who, but he did note Canton police officers were there who were unaccounted for. Massachusetts state troopers were there unaccounted for. And during that search that was overseen by Trooper Tully, Proctor's supervisor, 3 pieces of taillight material were found. That's super important, and I want to concentrate on that for a second. O'Hara said all 3 pieces were in an area about 12 inches square. That's an area about as big as your dinner plate.
He's hungry.
Tully, however, claimed that one red piece was found
He's on
about
a
3
diet.
feet away
Like,
from
it's
that
his food.
was
Yeah.
a shoe about
1
to 2
that
feet from that.
It's
was
like a big
clear
hoagie
piece of
sub
plastic, and a few feet away from that was a red piece of plastic. So we have red, clear,
that looked
and
like
red.
some ice
Over
cream.
the span of about, added up probably 10 or 12 feet.
Mr. Jackson.
Enough
You know,
snow
both
to
of
fill
those
up my
things
beer
cannot be true.
glass.
Somebody is taking liberties with the facts. Then Lieutenant Tully comes to court and makes this big grand gesture of opening all these evidence bags.
Yeah, I felt that
These 2
too.
evidence bags in particular represent exactly what we're talking about, those 3 pieces, red, clear, red. They're marked, they're sealed, they look official. They're not Stop and Shop bags, thank God. At least they've moved up from that.
Wait, what's wrong with Stop and Shop?
Who knew? There's evidence tape around here.
Stop and Shop's like,
So
hey.
this must be real evidence.
Come on,
right? It must
man.
be real evidence in this case.
The
And
Stop
after
and
making
Shop
that big
official
theatrical
evidence
display,
collection bags that
he
they
opens
sell
up
at the
bag
supermarket.
with the red pieces, and he pulls 2 pieces out. That's okay. Put the 2 red pieces together.
Right next to their official
So
forensics
far,
kit.
then he opens up the second
Stop and
bag
Shop.
under Mr. Lowry's questioning, and you remember he hesitated. just a
Boston
second.
PDRS.
Opened that bag and pulled out 1 piece of clear plastic, then pulled out a second piece of clear plastic with no explanation as to how that could have possibly happened.
I wonder what
They
their book
quickly returned
section's
all
like.
4 of those back into the
Idiot's
bag,
Guide
sealed them up, and
to
we're done for the day.
setting someone up for murder.
The next day, I asked about that evidence again. I asked him to open up that bag with the red pieces, and he did the same thing. Pulled out 2 red pieces of plastic. And I said, you'll recall this, I said, look deeper. Look closer, sir. Pull everything out of that bag. Would he have had I not suggested it? And then he pulled a 3rd piece of red plastic out of the bag. So miraculously, Trooper Tully's 3 pieces of plastic became 5 pieces of plastic right before your eyes. Ladies
He's
and gentlemen, the
magic.
forces
So-
at
so
play
the-
that
but
multiplied
they
those
didn't even
pieces
put
of
in evidence
plastic inside
correctly.
those evidence bags are the same
That's
forces at
what
play that multiply.
So how are
Mr.
you supposed
Jackson is saying.
But how are you
pieces
supposed to
of
trust
plastic
any
that
of
go
it?
for
You can't. If I was a juror,
Think about
there's
that.
no way you could
Let
trust
that
any
sink
of it.
in for a second. How easy is it? That's not sloppiness. That's evidence manipulation.
Yep.
That's how over the course of 3 weeks, those pieces of plastic go from 0 to 3 to 5 to 47,
Wow.
ever increasing in size with every single search. Now, knowing
And
all
remember,
that, ask
all in a
yourself
12-inch
the
area.
question,
I-
who had access to
How could
that
there be
taillight, the
47
cracked
pieces
taillight?
from
Who
a
was it?
taillight?
Well, plastic,
Go back
yeah,
and watch
plastic
the
doesn't
Sally
crack
Port
that
video.
way.
Yeah.
It's specifically meant
Timestamp,
not to crack that way.
5:37.
Yeah.
It cracks
See it for
and then it
yourself. We know
sits
the trooper
because they don't
Proctor
want it flying
had
around
hand.
in
He walked
accidents.
by himself. Once we corrected the video from being inverted, you can see that he walked back by himself to the right rear tail light where nobody could see what he was doing.
You know what I'd like to have
Higgins'
seen
own
is
key
that they
swipes put
take
him
a piece of
in
that
Sally
Lexus
Port that same
tail light
afternoon
and hit it really hard with
And
a
then the Sally Port
with a
video magically
like
skips and Chief
a big
Berkowitz
object
appears
and
right
just to
next
see what
Proctor,
occurs
happens.
with the
back
plastic.
of that vehicle in the same spot, and they walk out of the Sally Port together. Where were they going? Remember O'Hara? Unidentified troopers and Canton cops were at the search at 34 Fairview. How hard is it to drop a piece of plastic? We spent a long time talking about the compromised and altered and tampered and manipulated evidence, and now I want to switch and talk a little bit about the true facts in this case, because you did hear some true evidence and true facts. The Commonwealth presented about 67, maybe more, witnesses, and expended 30-plus days of trial and 9 weeks of your life. Maybe we're in the 10th week. For what? It should be relatively simple, right? The Commonwealth claims that Karen Reed pulled up to 34 Fairview, John got out of the car, she reversed into him and hit him, and then she drove home. That's 4 facts. It's just 4 facts. That's all it is. What evidence do they actually have to prove that that SUV ever hit John? The answer is none. They don't have any. There's no evidence whatsoever that Karen Reed's vehicle ever struck John O'Keefe or that Karen Reed ever wanted to strike John O'Keefe. In fact, every single piece of material evidence in this case unequivocally proves the opposite. John went into that house. That SUV was not damaged by hitting John, and John's injuries did not come from being hit by a car. That's what the evidence actually shows. The Commonwealth knows that, and they've known it for a long time, and Proctor knows that. And because of that, the Commonwealth just resorts to character assassination and talking for weeks on end about the snow. Let's talk about what the real evidence actually shows, the unassailable science. Let's talk about the truth.
Ooh, science.
Concerning John's injuries first, the Commonwealth's own medical examiner, Dr. Scortibello, could not conclude that John was hit by a car. Think about that. And she would not even say that it was a homicide. She told you without any dispute in this case, quote, evidence pointing toward one manner of death is no more compelling than evidence of a competing manner of death, end quote. Her words, not mine. She went on to say it's just as likely that he was punched
Monty Python
and
thing,
fell
sorry.
backward. His injuries are consistent.
Your
with that.
joke, son, not mine.
In fact, in her expert opinion, his injuries are consistent with a physical altercation, as she testified, but they are not, in her words, not classical injuries from an auto pedestrian accident. That by itself is reasonable doubt. But the evidence and the truth goes far further. We introduced you to not one, but two thoroughly credentialed medical examiners or medical experts, Dr. Sheridan
Yeah,
and
probably
Dr.
two
Russell,
of
both
the best
whom
medical
said
experts
John's
that you
arm
could find,
injury
too. Not
is consistent with an animal
like they
attack.
both had like
Dr.
40
Russell
plus years
studied,
of.
diagnosed, and treated 1,000, up to
Yep.
1,000 animal wounds. She's an expert in animal wounds, and she was unequivocal. Those wounds are from an animal, likely a large dog,
Police dog.
which means that John was attacked inside the home where Chloe was.
I think it was
There
the best
is
part.
no other possibility.
Without me
And Dr.
stating that a
Sheridan,
police
for his
dog was
part,
involved.
With thousands of 13,000 autopsies under his belt, decades of experience as a chief medical examiner who's triple credentialed in anatomical, forensic, and neuropathology. He told you that John's injuries are inconsistent with a motor vehicle accident or incident. They're
'Cause,
consistent, however.
usually defense will find anybody
In layman's terms,
that will,
the
they might
science
go through 4 or 5
proves
people before they
John
find
was
one person that will say yes or no.
That
But they
also
found like
is
the
reasonable
biggest,
doubt and
2 of the
should be in
biggest
this case.
experts, and was like,
facts and evidence don't stop
here.
there.
Yeah.
Two of the most highly educated and highly qualified engineers you'll ever meet, Dr. Dan Wolf and Dr. Andrew Rinchler, mechanical engineer and a biomechanist.
Jesus.
They reviewed this case. They did testing, they did analysis, they evaluated the case scientifically. They were not hired by the defense, not by the Commonwealth. They're completely 100% independent of any party in this case. And they were equally available, by the way, to the Commonwealth. They could have called them. They explained that John's injuries were not caused by being hit by Miss Reed's SUV, and that the SUV was not damaged by coming in contact with John O'Keefe's body. That should end the inquiry right there. Both sides of the equation. From a physics, engineering, and biomechanical standpoint, they established that John O'Keefe was not struck by Karen Reed's vehicle, period.
So that's they were.
And that is yet another fact.
The defense
that
did not
establishes
hire these
reasonable
people.
doubt that should put an end to this case.
Interesting.
So instead of calling the ARCA experts, which they had available to them, the Commonwealth chose to introduce you to Trooper Joe Paul. You'll remember his testimony.
Heard?
I think I'm being kind when I say that Trooper Paul's analysis lacked credibility. Trooper Paul lacks the experience, the education, the training, the background, and the knowledge to not only render opinions on these issues, but to even understand the issues themselves. He makes the absurd claim that John was hit on the elbow area of his arm by a taillight. He was spun to the left in a pirouette. His arm stayed on the light long enough for the shards of plastic to explode around him, scratching his arm even though he was wearing long sleeves, then projecting him 30 feet to the left, but not before making a stop to hit his head on either the curb or the pavement before coming to his final resting place with his unbroken phone tucked neatly under his body. It's nonsensical. It borders on laughable. Compare that testimony to Dr. Dan Wolf and Dr. Andrew Rinchler. Both PhDs in engineering, both top of their field in accident reconstruction, both published peer-review articles on the issues. Both men are highly sought after by the likes of national sports leagues and the United States Department of Defense. And these men are unrivaled in accident reconstruction.
Morons.
What did Dr. Rinchler say before he left the stage?
That's it,
This was even under
Lally.
cross-examination.
Prosecutor Lally is
Yeah.
going to come
He
back.
said that the physics and the science don't lie.
You ever heard of Aristotle, Socrates, Plato? Morons.
John wasn't hit by that car. Period. The
Must have been
Commonwealth
iocane
cannot
powder.
explain John O'Keefe's injuries. They can't explain his head wound. How did he get the head wound if he landed on snow-covered grass and dirt? And by the way, before Mr. Lally gets up and says it, because I know he's going to, there is zero evidence before you, zero, that cold grass and dirt turns into ice or turns into concrete. Zero.
And there was no DNA on.
They can't explain
Or the blood.
injury above
And
there
the
wasn't,
eye,
like, blood. There should have been
laceration.
blood
They
everywhere.
can't explain his nose. They haven't even tried to. They can't explain the injury to his tongue, the laceration on his tongue. They cannot explain the injuries to to the back of his hands, the bruises, and certainly they cannot explain the injuries to his right arm. But maybe most importantly, they cannot and haven't even tried to explain the lack of injuries on John's body.
How
from
not
the
to
neck
investigate a
down.
murder by Chupacabra.
Yeah, exactly. That's a
He
good
was
book.
pristine. Not a bump, not a
That's the
bruise,
worst book I would read cover to cover.
fracture, not a broken bone. Nothing to suggest
Oh my
that he
God.
was hit by a 7,000-pound SUV going 25 miles per hour. And what of that right arm? According to the Commonwealth's best and brightest, Trooper Paul, John absorbed
It's a short story.
the entirety of the collision, the whole collision. With
I
that
love
3.5
Chief.
Chapter
ton
1,
SUV
a
entirely
cop's
with his
involved.
right arm,
Chapter
launching
2,
him
go to trial. That's it.
But amazingly, the arm suffered no break, no fracture, and didn't even get a bruise.
I love the idea of
So how
chupacabras
are those
solving
injuries
crimes.
properly explained?
Okay,
The
so
evidence
I
is
think I'm gonna have to
simple.
take that
John got
Chupacabra
into an
and put a
altercation.
Sherlock
He tried
Yeah.
to defend himself.
cap on and a pipe.
He maybe even scratched his own nose by putting his hands in front of his face to defend himself.
And maybe, you know, a blindfold too.
Yeah.
Five minutes, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. As he continued, he got hit.
She scared me.
punch went through,
That she was in the room with us.
fracturing his skull.
5 minutes.
At some point during that altercation, the dog got
Judge
hold of him,
Beverly.
and the dog was
No.
pulled away. Every single injury is answered. Every single injury is explained by that. Ladies and gentlemen,
Over here in the corner.
given what we know about the facts and the physical evidence in this case.
Yeah,
the
I
actual
guess. I
truth
didn't
in
know
this
that
case,
either.
how did this
Yeah,
happen?
she said
45 minutes.
She said it at the beginning.
We ended up
The
here
closing
because
is timed. I'll be
relationships,
given a
insider
5-minute
trading,
warning
playing the
to
who
both
you know
parties.
game,
They asked for it,
and
so
building
I'm not.
a tall blue
As I was
wall,
laughing about
which takes
I'm not
decades and generations. But the real
judging
question
them
is,
or, you know,
is it going to continue?
forcing them or whatever. She's like,
Festering malignancy
I was asked
allows
to do it,
A lead
so.
detective and his supervisor to gloat and sneer while looking over naked pictures or looking for naked pictures of the woman that they've targeted. Will that continue? And the answer should be, not if you have anything to say about it. Michael Proctor is the lead investigator in this case, and much as the Commonwealth might try, they cannot distance themselves from the stench of him on this case and this investigation. Those secret group chats illustrate the quality and character of his investigation. Remind yourself how an, quote, unbiased and an objective investigator, someone who's supposed to be looking for facts. Ask yourself, how did he approach his job? Late at night, sitting there in his office, deviously looking for naked pictures of Karen Reed and talking about her like she's a piece of meat.
stop saying that.
Talking about her bodily functions, her medical conditions, calling her vile names. I don't even have it in me to repeat what he said about her.
Yeah, you do. Not anymore.
To an object.
Got it all out of his.
And went further by insulting her. He went further than insulting her, and he dehumanized her. And when he was done betraying that very humanity, he wished for her to commit suicide. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how you frame someone. That's how you dehumanize someone so
Yeah,
viciously.
I think so
that
too.
you
Yeah.
pin it on the girl.
Because Lally is like, he's not good at his job.
Because he's a Boston cop.
He's just gonna come up and go,
That's how you rip a
yeah, we
person's
pinned it on her.
life and sleep like a baby while doing it. And then further that by saying,
You got us.
Uh-oh.
ladies and gentlemen, I just
Oops.
this morning with a quote about
Next time, though,
because
you're not gonna catch us.
top to bottom, tip
We're
to
gonna
tail,
get away with
telling the
it.
truth, not hiding it or concealing it, but exposing the truth. The truth is immutable. It's not a feeling, it's not a whim. It's unflinching, it's unchanging.
He's gonna
it's
be
everlasting.
sorry.
That's why
Ruh-roh.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why it's not
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for that pesky dog.
think they're above the law, who think they're above scrutiny. That's why
Oh,
you
that's
stand
terrible.
as the guardian of justice and the protector of justice. The law demands the
It's been
very
more than 5
integrity
minutes. Come on.
Proctor and his investigation lacks, and it requires that you cannot.
It's like, wrap it up.
There's a sign in the
has
back.
met its incredibly high burden to prove every element beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty.
So what was that? 45
Moral
minutes
certainty is
he had,
defined
or half
as the
hour?
That seems right.
highest degree of
45
certainty
minutes seems
possible
right, but
in matters
maybe it's been an hour and we just
it's the
don't
highest
realize it.
degree possible in your life. That's the level of certainty. And I'll leave you with this. You have the most powerful tool known to American jurisprudence because you have your vote. No one can take that away from you, not me, not the Commonwealth, not the court. You may not have asked to be here, but each of you have given something very special of yourselves. You've agreed to do that which is the highest calling a citizen can answer in any way. You've agreed to give your community your best. And my question to you is, what will you do with this moment? Ignore the lies and the manipulations, the misogyny, the bias, the lack of evidence?
Don't throw away your
Would
shot.
you ever do that? Would you ever do that? Or will you say with your verdict, I see the truth, and I will not ever look the other way? When you stare the truth down, you'll see that the Commonwealth has not proven its case beyond a reasonable doubt into a moral certainty, not even close. Ladies and gentlemen, Karen Read is innocent. Do justice and find her not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Yay.
Mr. Jack.
He's good. He is really,
really
good.
good.
Mr. Lally?
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'll be right back. I gotta.
Yeah.
I hit him, I hit him, I hit him,
Yeah.
I hit him.
Yeah.
Those are the words of the defendant. 4 times. You heard testimony from 4 different witnesses who overheard and observed those statements from the defendant on January 29th, 2022. You heard testimony from firefighter Timothy Nuttall. He was trying to bag valve mask Mr. O'Keefe. He was working on resuscitative efforts to try to save Mr. O'Keefe's life. He asked if anyone saw anything or knew what happened, and the defendant said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Firefighter Anthony Flamati was asking if anyone had information on why Mr. O'Keefe was there in the snow. The defendant repeatedly said, I hit him, I hit him, oh my God, I hit him. Firefighter Katie McLaughlin was tasked by firefighter Flamati with asking for biographical information and for what the cause was of the traumatic injuries that all the firefighters testified that they observed on Mr. O'Keefe. She asked the defendant, and the defendant said, I hit him.
She keeps.
Repeatedly.
That's it. The 4 times she said I hit him. That's the whole case.
You did what? And the defendant repeated, I hit him. Jennifer McCabe stated initially over the phone when speaking with the defendant that the defendant said, could I have hit him in the car while they're on the phone with Ms. Roberts going from Ms. McCabe's house to Mr. O'Keefe's house? Did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Once on scene, once asked, as Ms. McCabe described by an EMT, for name, age, things like that related to Mr. O'Keefe, what caused the trauma? She indicated in her testimony that the defendant said repeatedly, I hit him. You heard testimony from Officer Saraf, statements that he attributed to the defendant as saying that morning, this is all my fault. This is all my fault. I did this. This is what the defendant is saying on scene. Since then, the story's changed a little bit. But those were the words that came from the defendant's mouth on January 29th, 2022, as John O'Keefe lay dying on the front lawn of 34 Fairview Road, where the defendant had left him after striking him with her motor vehicle several hours before, and then left him freezing there in a blizzard. There's certain things that have come up over the course of this trial as far as evidence and testimony are concerned, little things. And what I would suggest to you
Little
is
things.
it's those little things that are quite telling as it pertains to the defendant's statements and the defendant's actions over the course of January 28th and January 29th.
I wonder how his investigation's going.
And I'm going to bring some of those to your attention as I go through, but just ask you to keep that in mind as far as when you're deliberating, when you're reviewing this testimony and this evidence. The little things matter. The little things start piling up in this case. Throughout the course of this trial, you've heard a lot of purported evidence or questions of witnesses in an attempt to distract you from the evidence in this case. The It's essentially defense by obfuscation. It's a three-card monitor. The facts and the evidence in this case are your card, they're the Queen of Hearts. And so what I want you to, or what the defense wants you to do is not look at that card. Look at anything else. Look at movement, look at this person, look at that person, look at text messages, look at this. Don't pay attention to the facts and the evidence, because if you do, it will ineluctably lead you
I think he just
that
blew
the
it.
defendant is guilty of each of the 3 indictments.
He's saying that the defense is saying don't look at the evidence
The evidence
of like
and
the
facts
car,
of this case
and they're
are
pinpointing
you,
the car
the
and the
jury, to
evidence.
decide. Using your common sense, using your life experiences as your guide through that as you go.
Yeah, I don't. They don't have a.
They don't
Before
have
I
a
tell
common
you that
sense
evidence that
argument.
I will submit to you and eluctably
Other
demonstrate
than
the
she
defendant's
said, I did
guilt,
it, I did it, I did it.
let me first
Yeah,
just
but-
address Trooper Proctor. The text messages from Trooper Proctor are unprofessional, they're indefensible, they're inexcusable. However, as distasteful as those messages are, and their content is,
Marsha Clark.
I submit they had no bearing whatsoever or impact whatsoever on the integrity of the entirety of the investigation that the Massachusetts State Police collectively conducted into John O'Keefe's death here. As was asked.
Yeah, I agree with you,
Trooper
Christy.
Proctor
They
on
don't have a case
cross-examination,
or an
these
argument.
were texts
No.
from his personal phone
Well, he's also like,
that he never thought would see the light of day. He was asked whether or not he ever thought that he would
Yeah.
ask about
I
these in
smell
the
BS.
courtroom.
Yeah.
Put to him in sort of a safe
Well,
space, a safe place.
typically,
to discuss.
from my understanding, is that whenever someone goes second, they can counteract what the first person says, right? So you listen and the guy just literally was up there saying, look at the evidence of the car. Look closely at the evidence of the car. And then he was like, they're trying to hide the evidence of the car. It's like, he
There is no
just
conspiracy,
said,
there is
pay
no
close
cover-up,
attention.
There is
Yeah.
no evidence of any of that beyond speculation, rampant speculation and conjecture on behalf of the defense.
He's doing this all
Things
wrong.
can be true at the same time. They're mutually exclusive. The texts from Trooper Proctor are distasteful.
Yeah, keeps
disrespectful,
talking about it.
Professional. There's no defense.
This is his point, to put that period on the end of there is no reasonable but doubt. And he
Turning to the
keeps coming
evidence,
back to the reasonable
let me
doubt.
first Talk a little bit about John O'Keefe.
Yeah, I think he's ruined this.
You heard a lot about him over the course of this trial, about his selfless story through his family and friends that loved him, including his adopted niece and nephew.
Okay, so his argument was he was a really good guy.
You heard a lot
We all know
about
he was
the
a good
lives he
guy.
touched and the different people who he
And
had
she said, "I
friendships
did
with.
it."
You heard a lot about
That's it.
from
Yep.
those particular friends and from his family. Turning to what I would submit to you as a timeline.
Timer.
This may be a little hard to see up here. What I'm going to go is from left to right.
Oof.
January 28th, 2022, 9:49 in the morning, Karen and John begin fighting over text messages.
Oh yeah,
2:25
again, the
PM
messages.
In the afternoon, the defendant texts Mr. O'Keefe, tell me if you are interested in someone else. Can't think of any other reason you've
Yeah.
been like this.
So what you're going to see
John
here
texts
is
back,
missing
"Nope."
text.
2:25, Mr. O'Keefe texts the defendant, things haven't been great between us for a while.
Yeah.
Ever consider that? This is also testimony that you heard through multiple sources, whether it be phones, whether it be from the children, whether it be from other friends or family members as to the relationship in the months and weeks leading up to John's murder. 2:32 p.m. John texts the defendant, sick of always arguing and fighting. It's been weekly for several months now. He then texts the defendant, OMG, stop calling. This is during the time frame that Trooper Garino was talking about, with 18 phone calls, most of which were rejected, some of which were missed, and a couple of which were answered over the course of this afternoon, as she's continuing to needle and try to engage him in a fight that he doesn't want to have. 2:33 p.m. The defendant texts John, so you're not into this anymore. 2:34 p.m. John texts the defendant, I am not answering, stop calling. The defendant then texts John, then stop starting with me. 2:38 p.m. The defendant texts John, I'm going to grab a drink in a bit. At 2:38 in the afternoon. Around 3 p.m. is the testimony you heard from Aaron O'Keefe, in regard to the defendant texting her, asking if she can go out without her husband, Paul. Asking to go out for a drink. This is while Erin O'Keefe testified she was waiting for one of her children at the bus stop, picking that child up around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This is also the point in which the defendant says to Ms. O'Keefe, "Wish I didn't speak to another O'Keefe after 2004. 7:30 p.m., you have Mr. O'Keefe and Mr. Camerano arriving at C.F. McCarthy's with the defendant arriving at 8:51. 8:58 p.m. is when the defendant receives drink number 1 at C.F. McCarthy's. Vodka soda, tall cylinder glass, lime, and a straw.
Yeah, they're drunk.
9:13 p.m., drink number 2.
We get it.
9:20 p.m., drink number 3.
She was drunk driving.
9:33
They should
drink
find her
number
guilty
4.
for that.
Oh,
but-
yeah. Yeah, she needs a
9:57
DUI.
p.m.,
DWI.
Drink number 5. 10:22 p.m., drink number 6. 10:29 p.m., drink number 7. 7 drinks from 8:51.
But also,
excuse me, 8:58 p.m.
this is-
through 10:29 p.m.
she was getting drinks for
Received that last
everybody.
drink.
She had a ton of drinks. I mean, she was definitely drunk. I'm not.
Mechanic
But
and several others on the next day. that
These
she
are-
was
these
not
are
taken with her from CF
i-
McCarthy's
iffy
to the waterfall,
at best.
Which several individuals at the waterfall
Everybody
testified
was
that she
drunk.
from her coat when she walked in, and that you can clearly see on the CF McCarthy's video her walking out the door with the same tall cylinder glass in her right hand. Now, understanding that some of these drinks are not the full tall cylinder drinks, what she's doing is she's getting shot glasses of vodka and then pouring them into the drink after she's consumed the drink. 10:54 p.m. The
That sounds like a fun
defendant
night.
and Mr. O'Keefe arrive at the waterfall, during the course of which
With a bunch of
an hour
steroid
that
out
they're there,
cops.
The defendant receives drinks number
Could be
8
fun.
and drinks number 9.
Yeah, just sit in the back and watch.
Yeah.
12:10 a.m.
I really want to
From the
go to
waterfall
this
video,
bar.
you have Ms. McCabe, Ms. Kolakikis,
Oh, we've been talking
and
about
the
going to
defendant
Boston
are in the
forever.
waterfall together.
That's the problem with this
Interestingly,
lolly
around the
guy.
same
He is
time, you also
so
have the text
fucking
and screenshot
boring.
communications between Colin Albert
Yeah, I
and
can't
Alfred
listen to him
Wood,
He's
anymore.
so
referencing
boring.
him getting
I'm like
picked up at that time. You also
playing a
have
game on my
testimony
phone.
from Brian Albert, Nicole
Jeez.
Albert, Caitlin Albert, Brian Albert Jr.
Albert,
reference to
Albert,
them
Albert,
sort of walking
Albert,
into the
Albert.
waterfall as Colin Albert is walking out.
John
of
Albert
34th
III.
Road, gets picked up by Miss McCabe and then is driven home.
None of these names mean
1
anything to
minute
me.
later,
Like it just.
12:11,
Well, you're a Western
Mr.
devil.
O'Keefe is then on the waterfall video walking out with
true.
a cocktail glass in his right hand.
Can confirm.
Western.
12:14 a.m., Mr. O'Keefe texts Ms. McCabe, "Where to?"
West Devil.
12:14 a.m., based on the fact that she's driving, and Matt McCabe indicated in his testimony that she should call him instead of texting while driving, Ms. McCabe calls John O'Keefe. He speaks with him regarding directions, sort of going over which way to come in, Chapman Street, over Cedar Crest, as far as coming into Fairview Road.
None of that's evidence. Because it was a
12:15,
call.
38 a.m., the defendant's vehicle
That's
drives by the
hearsay.
Canton Library. You can see that on the video. 12:17, 56, the defendant drives by the Temple Beth Abraham video. Again, you can see that on the video. Remember also the testimony from Lieutenant Tully in regard to the CSLI data and the ranging data in reference to it coinciding with what you observed, the black SUV, from each of those respective videos.
We know she was there.
12:19:32. Mr. O'Keefe enters 34 Fairview Road into his Waze app on his phone. 12:23 a.m. is when the defendant conducts a three-point turn on Cedar Crest and travels back toward Fairview. That's from Mr. O'Keefe's GPS native location data from his phone. Around the same time at 12:23 and 12:24 is when you have that testimony from Ryan Nagel, Heather Maxon, and Ricky D'Antono pulling into Fairview Road around the same time and pulling in behind the dark SUV. 12:25 a.m. is the last native location GPS data of John O'Keefe's phone. It's in that area between 32 and 34 Fairview Road where his body is discovered the next morning, in which there is no movement of that phone from that 12:25 a.m. period until Miss Roberts then picks up the phone on the grass underneath Mr. O'Keefe's body sometime after 6 a.m. What you have up on the screen right now is that data, those plotting points that Trooper Garino was testifying about as far as the movement of the vehicle. The movement of the vehicle as it comes down Cedar Crest, passes by Fairview, reverses direction, and then comes down Fairview, moving up, moving up, moving backing up as the witnesses described, eventually stopping in that area of the property line between 32 and
I don't
34
understand these
Fairview
numbers at
Road,
all.
I know, but there's some nice pools.
which happens to coincide.
Think
with
they have
the
heated pools up
vehicle
there?
Control history
be
database,
Is that something they do?
information from the Toyota text stream. which
I wonder
now
how much those homes
And
cost.
again, these numbers mean
indicating
nothing.
that following that three-point turn, approximately 8 minutes after that, from Trooper Paul's testimony, as far as the mileage, 36 to 38 miles, matching
Oh
up
my
with the
God,
time
this
that
is
was
so
used to
boring.
farm 34 Fairview Road,
Wow.
that the vehicle travels in reverse, in a straight line,
And again,
for 24.2 miles per hour for 62 and a half feet, with a minor steering angle change.
of -4 degrees, which is like this.
indicated, was consistent with a pedestrian collision.
What?
12:30 a.m., you have that second triggering event, 8 minutes after the three-point
No,
turn
it-
when the vehicle's in reverse at 24.
Oh my God.
12:35 is when the defendant calls John, and that's unanswered. 12:36 is around the time that the defendant's phone connects to the Wi-Fi at 1 Meadows Ave, Mr. O'Keefe's home. 12:37 is when the defendant leaves this voicemail.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because she thinks he's
So within
cheating.
minutes,
He's cheating on her.
That vehicle's data.
And she's a whack job. I think we he wasn't wrong. He shouldn't have said that, but
The defendant
Yeah.
leaves that voicemail, seething in rage.
There's
as
other
she's
ways of saying
screaming,
whack
"John,
job, too,
I
but,
fucking
you know.
hate you."
whack job is pretty good.
12:40 to 12:42.
But he called the ME a
Mr.
whack
Gates
job
texting
also.
Mr. O'Keefe. She tries calling
And then
Mr.
tried to
O'Keefe,
cover it up.
Gets no
Yeah.
answer. If you recall from
That's
her
his phrase. He
testimony
calls
around
every-
this
every-
time, about 12:40, she was
Thank you so
unsure
much.
whether
you.
the vehicle
Thank you,
was
bud.
actually
We
still out
appreciate it.
front Or if it had gone at that point. But she was looking for John because she had seen the defendant's
Yeah.
vehicle in front
It's
of the
okay.
house, and no
Thank you
one
for your
had
help.
come in. So she was wondering where her friend,
yeah,
Mr. O'Keefe,
good.
was. 12:55.
Thank you.
The defendant texts John, "See you later." 12:59. The defendant calls, leaves another voicemail for Mr. O'Keefe. Exhibit 637. It sounded like this.
John, I'm here with your fucking kids. Nobody knows what the fuck you want, you fucking pervert.
Yeah. Because she thinks
Somebody did know where Mr. O'Keefe was. The defendant.
it doesn't help them.
She had driven him there. She had struck him there. She had left him to die.
And then you call back and start screaming at him, like,
1:02
why are
a.m.,
you cheating on me?
Yeah.
sent a voicemail with no content.
You hit him with the car and you call him screaming, why are you
Kids
cheating on
don't
me?
fucking know.
My God. Like, come on. Come
That's what I mean.
sense.
09
It's, this is not helping them.
Text John,
No.
"I'm back in Mansfield. The kids are home alone." She's not. GPS.
They put the
as far
exhibits
as
on
the-
it, like,
it never
look,
disconnects from the Wi-Fi
Look,
until
this is
the
real,
following morning.
real evidence.
No indication that Ms. Reed
I'm a real
left
dean.
her home in Mansfield at any point.
He's a real
1:10 a.m.,
prosecutor.
defendant was apparent.
How much does he get paid?
1:11 a.m.
Actually, probably not enough.
No.
calls Mr. O'Keefe
He
and
needs
leaves
to
this
get
voice.
better.
John, I'm going home. I cannot babysit Amy. I need to go home. You're fucking using me right now. You're fucking another girl. She's
Yeah.
sleeping next to me. You're a fucking loser.
Yep.
I would be pissed too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
18 a.m.
I'm like, I
another
understand.
voicemail.
I get it.
Now, about 1:43 or 1:45 a.m. is when Julie Nagel testified
And he stayed
that
out
they
all
were
night,
leaving the house.
leaving his
And
kids
she
by
sees
themselves.
a
Yeah.
large black object
Yeah.
on the lawn near the
I bet she feels
flagpole
horrible
while
about that
leaving
now. I mean,
Yeah.
Road. Doesn't think much of it at the time. Isn't expecting Mr. O'Keefe or any body to be out on the front lawn. 4:42 a.m. The defendant calls and speaks. The calls to her parents are finally answered. 4:49 a.m. The defendant calls Miss Camerano, screaming, "Where's Mike?" 4:53 in the morning is when the defendant instructs Kaylee, Mr. O'Keefe's niece, to call Miss McCabe. Why? Because the defendant doesn't have Miss McCabe's phone number. Indicates that John didn't come home. We got in a fight, and I left him at the waterfall. Those are the first statements or the first version of events that she's able to communicate out to the world as to what happened to Mr. O'Keefe and where he is. We got into a fight. I left him at the waterfall. 5 a.m., the defendant calls Kerry Roberts, saying, "John's dead, Kerry, hangs up the phone. 5:01, the defendant calls Kerry Roberts again. And it's at this point that she indicates that John's dead. He must have been hit by a cloud.
This is where we need the whiskey.
5:07 a.m. The defendant leaves One Meadows Ave. You have the video of that.
It's 11:30. That's a good time, right?
It's whiskey time.
We'll get to that a little more in a moment.
Any times.
About 5:10
Santori
a.m.
time.
The defendant calls Carrie Roberts. Ms. Roberts starts calling hospitals, calling HCD, calling 911.
So boring.
Something that you would do if you didn't know where Mr.
Ooh, remember
O'Keefe
Whataburger?
was for all
What was
of
that?
these hours.
Whataburger?
that all of these
That
other
sounds good
phone
today,
calls
doesn't
it?
are
I know.
being made and these text messages are being sent and calling your parents.
So
all of
profundity
these other
now,
things. No
profundity
calls to 911 from the defendant.
yours
While
Oh.
John O'Keefe is laying
is
freezing,
trending
Oh my
right now.
God.
dying
Yeah. Because she
from brain injury and a skull fracture on the front lawn of 34 Fairview Road.
I think it would have done a lot better if they had a
5:11
better
a.m.
prosecutor.
The defendant's vehicle is seen on the
If
Canton
he was
Library
just
camera
better.
heading towards the waterfront.
I think they would have done better if the prosecutor had a real case
5:18 a.m.
to prosecute.
Defendant's vehicle is seen at Washington Street and Chapman.
I mean, literally, I wonder what this guy's like. How am I going to do this? What am I going to do? I'll just go through the facts, the facts of the matter. And he is. All of those are facts. None of them prove that she hit him. Prove that she was a whack job.
That is so boring.
At that time in the driveway.
I think that's why I've had the hardest time with this case because the prosecution just went on and on and on and on, and it was so boring.
Well, I'm also like every time he talks, too, I get physical pain in my brain.
Jennifer McCabe's house.
He doesn't have that thick of an accent.
Indicated
To you?
before, heading in the same direction, same directionality, retracing the steps from the night before, heading towards 34 Fairview Road. Why is it that the defendant can see Mr. O'Keefe when they eventually get to Fairview Road and no one else can? It's because she knew exactly where he was.
No.
Because that's where they
She
put
had
him.
left him there the night before, and she had gone back during that time frame between 5:18 a.m. when she's seen on the Temple video and 5:35 when she arrives at Ms. McCabe's.
Right. Yeah.
5:23, I'm sorry,
Ooh.
5:33 is when the defendant.
Right.
Ms.
And
McCabe,
like
Ms.
I said,
Roberts,
Christy,
returned
it's
to
all
Meadows Ave searching for John.
facts.
6:03
But
is when the
none of the
defendant,
facts show
no one
anything
else,
other than
spots Mr. O'Keefe's body buried in the snow.
bad messages.
Exhibit 12, indicating this cruiser camera video, which I know you've seen a dozen times. So where I'm starting it from this point in this card right here is the spotlight that Officer Saraf had to use in order to locate, even with a vehicle of Ms. Roberts parked right in the middle of the road.
Wait, what are we looking at?
I don't know.
Is that the snowplow? Is that the
Oh, this is-
Frankenplow? What is this? Oh, this is the police cam.
In the darkness, in the snow, in the blizzard, in those conditions, the defendant, sitting in the back seat of the vehicle, knows exactly where Mr. O'Keefe is, covered in snow, as you heard from
But that
all of
car
the
was-
paramedics, from the
That car was in the.
civilians, from the first responders. The defendant knows exactly where
It doesn't prove anything.
6:07 a.m. Ms. McCabe.
It's not
calls
evidence.
911. 6:08, the defendant leaves that 4 or 5 minute voicemail, leaving the phone in the car for some reason to Mr. O'Keefe's phone. 6:23 and 6:24 in the morning is when Ms. McCabe conducts those Google searches. 7:50 in the morning is when Mr. O'Keefe is pronounced deceased at Good Samaritan Hospital. 4:13 to 4:20 p.m. is when the defendant's SUV is towed from her parents' house in Dighton. 5:20 p.m. is when the search team arrives in the area of 34 Fairview Road to conduct the search for evidence. 5:30 p.m. is when the defendant's vehicle arrives at the Canton Police Department south. We circle back for a moment to Mr. O'Keefe, to his families, to his friends, and to his relationship with the defendant. We heard testimony from Paul and Aaron O'Keefe that they liked the defendant, that they thought he was good for John, thought he was good for the kids. All outward appearances of the relationship were good. You heard testimony from the children that that was not true behind closed doors. But Paul O'Keefe testified that he told the defendant's parents this, that he liked Miss Reed, that he thought that she was good for John, thought that she was good for the kids, weeks before John's murder. He even blew her a kiss in the emergency department at Good Samaritan as he was walking out and she was still being treated while they were there. Invited her over to John's house to grieve with him. Invited her to sit down with him while he explained to their nephew Patrick about John's passing. Defendant shows up at the house. Abruptly goes upstairs with her father for a period of about 15 minutes, which is about half of the time that she spent there that morning grieving with the family. She left with a bag of her belongings, drove with her family there, and then took an extra vehicle in the height of the blizzard now, around 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, drives that vehicle all the way from Canton, where it was parked at her boyfriend's house, where she stayed over on many occasions, drove that vehicle or felt the need to drive that vehicle from Canton all the way down to her parents' house in Dighton at the height of the blizzard.
What?
You heard testimony from Aaron O'Keefe.
I don't understand that one either.
On-
What is
in the phone call on
that she
January
wants to be with her
28th.
parents because her boyfriend just died?
He's just.
You heard that Aaron O'Keefe called the defendant on the morning of the 29th because she was concerned for her. She wanted to know what was going on with someone she considered her friend. The defendant yells, "John is dead." Ms. Robertson grabs the phone and then updates Aaron O'Keefe as to what's going on with John.
Yeah.
Aaron O'Keefe again calls back later because she's concerned for someone that she considered her friend. How does the defendant respond? These are some of the little things.
She's pissed. She's upset.
Indicates to Miss O'Keefe that she just has to remember the bad times, and indicates to her, "I don't think I'll ever see you guys." This is after she's done her quick in and out
God.
at One Meadows Ave and is now with her parents or with her father, driving that car, essentially taking the murder weapon from Canton and bringing it down to her parents'
murder
house in
weapon.
Dighton. She's
The car.
indicating over the phone
No,
to
I know.
Aaron O'Keefe, "I don't think I'll ever see you guys again." Why?
Because she was still drunk.
Why would she say that?
Well, she
You
well
heard
she
a lot
might
of
be
testimony
sober
about
at this
New
point.
Year's
It's
Eve
been a
or-
while. Like this is the rest of the
You
day.
heard
But
the testimony from Miss O'Keefe in regard to them exchanging, her and the defendant exchanging text messages.
But it's like,
on the
yeah,
flight down,
your
arranging times to meet up.
husband just died.
And
I mean,
then the defendant
your
telling
brother
her,
or whatever
via
relation
text
just
message
died.
that she caught Johnny kissing
So I just
Laura's
don't think I'm
sister
going to be able to
in
see
the
you
hotel
guys
bar.
again.
She
You
got
know,
into an
like
argument
there's
about
so
it,
many
and
things
they
that you could
never
say about that.
met. Meaning the defendant, Mr. O'Keefe.
It's
got
not
into an
like the
argument about
Daybells,
it,
you know,
and she
Chad,
and
where he
Aaron
goes,
O'Keefe never
well,
ended up meeting up in Aruba.
I'm not coming out
Her
anytime
testimony
soon.
consistent from Laura Sullivan,
I think that's
Ed
what he's trying to
Sullivan,
like show a
as well as
Daybell
the
connection kind of there, like you know.
Kiss never happened. It never would happen based on the relationship, the godfather relationship that John O'Keefe had with Laura Sullivan, her family, and particularly Laura Sullivan's child. The defendant persists with this unfounded suspicion and accusations of infidelity in her text messages with Mr. O'Keefe, in her text messages with Mr. Higgins, where she's accusing Mr. O'Keefe of making out in the lobby with Marietta Sullivan. Both of the Sullivans and the children have the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe following this incident with Marietta Sullivan going into a room. Both of the children testified that they're in that room for about 20 to 25 minutes and they're arguing about the defendant indicating that Mr. O'Keefe kissed someone in the lobby. And you have Laura Sullivan's testimony about 20 to 25 minutes after her sister comes out and states her displeasure about the defendant. It's about 20 to 25 minutes before Mr. O'Keefe comes out, and then he and Ms. Sullivan have a conversation. Ms. Sullivan indicates that Mr. O'Keefe's phone is essentially blowing up, lighting up with calls and texts from the defendant. I would submit similar to the afternoon of January 28th. Mr. O'Keefe says she's crazy and he needs to take this and goes off from her. Ms. Sullivan has later conversations with Mr. O'Keefe on this Aruba trip, asks him if he's okay, asks him if he's happy. She indicated in her testimony that Mr. O'Keefe shrugs it off and says it is what it is. You heard testimony from the children about the arguments in the weeks and the months. And I know this is a displeasure to the defense counsel that the children came in and actually testified as to what happened behind closed doors in the house. They both recall frequent fights. They both recall Mr. O'Keefe trying multiple times to break up with the defendant, asking her to leave the house, the defendant refusing to leave the house.
And then him going right back to her too. So
John tried to defuse,
Yeah.
he tried to walk away, and the defendant would follow each time during each argument. They both indicated that Mr. O'Keefe had told the defendant that the relationship had run its course, similar to language within the text messages you have between the defendant and Mr. O'Keefe. That Mr. O'Keefe was sick of arguing, again, mirroring those text messages from January 28th, leading up into going out to see if McCarthy's, eventually the waterfall, and the defendant killing Mr. O'Keefe in the early morning hours of January 29th. We have the testimony in regard to the ring camera. Kaylee indicated in her testimony that John had had that for about a year. So during the course of 2 years or so of the relationship with the defendant, he got it while he was dating the defendant.
oh,
The defendant had the security codes to the garage. Neither of the kids had access to the camera. Trooper Garino checked the laptop and the desktop that were left after the defendant did.
Oh, they're saying that she deleted the ring
yeah,
data.
that's what they said originally too.
Neither of those devices had access to the ring cameras. John had access on his phone. The defendant indicates, if you recall, in some of those text messages,
John had access on the phone.
romantic kiss that she placed on Mr.
So if they got his phone, they could have
early
deleted
on
it.
January, whatever it was during the Patriots. Mr.
Unlock it
Higgins
with his
and Mr.
face?
Jackson was indicating weren't very good
all it
friends
takes.
with Mr. O'Keefe, but had been invited over to his home for a Patriots game, at which time the defendant escorted Mr. Higgins out of the garage and placed a romantic kiss on him. But during those text messages, when they're talking about that, if you recall, the defendant is saying something or joking about something that Mr. O'Keefe had been looking at the videos and had been asking her if there was something going on with her and Mr. Higgins. And what was her response to that? I know where the cameras are. There are only 2 videos missing from that ring system. One being the defendant getting to Mr. O'Keefe's house after murdering him, and the other when the defendant is showing Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts the broken taillight, both of which, both Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts testified as having occurred. No video of that. The variety of stories that the defendant tells on the morning of January 29th.
Yeah, and she could have deleted it too.
Voicemails from the defendant to Mr. O'Keefe.
But they also didn't prove that she had access to.
12:33 a.m. to 6:03 a.m.
Wait a
Zero
minute.
phone calls to 911.
Those time frames don't add up.
None of this adds up. None of him.
Yeah,
And
I
I
know, but
think-
I always try. I always
He's
try.
so boring. How can you listen to
I have
him?
to.
He's so boring.
The call then from
I could listen to this to go to sleep too if it wasn't for that accent.
Yeah.
phone number.
It's
Both Kaylee and Ms.
so boring.
initially indicates
No, like I'm really am. I'm trying to find the piece of evidence that proves it, right? So, so they're not saying that she had access to the login
Julie Albert.
for the ring camera,
Chris Albert, Julie Albert,
that it was on his phone.
by the waterfall. Maybe that's
But
what
at
went.
this point,
As
the phone is with the body that she murdered hours later. So what they're saying is that she went back,
Matthew McCabe reminds
grabbed the phone,
they saw the
and
defendant
deleted it,
and Mr. O'Keefe
and then drove back again,
34 Fairview.
because that's the only way it matches the timeline.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
During this call,
So
during these subsequent calls,
the only
defendant
person
indicates
that would have
Mr. McCabe,
had
maybe I hit
access
him,
to
did I
delete
hit
the
him?
ring
And
footage
calls Ms.
is
Roberts
who
at
had
5 a.m.
access
on
to the
dot,
phone,
indicates John's
which was
dead,
the house, at the
phone,
house.
Calls back a minute later, indicates that Mr.
They're
O'Keefe
missing
was
that
now
huge
in
point of the data. He shouldn't have brought it up,
and then indicates further that she's drunk and doesn't remember.
because if you're trying to frame
Tells
her,
Ms. McCabe
you
about
don't
the
want to
cracked
show
taillight
the broken
before
taillight
they even get in the vehicle and go anywhere,
because it
as
would have
you
been
recall the testimony
at the wrong
back
time,
then,
and
indicating that
it would have
he
shown in the
was
condition
drunk,
like
driving around
and the time that she would arrive,
damaged taillight.
because it would have disproven that
in the
she was
middle of a
there.
blizzard. Ms. Roberts' testimony that
But the time
saw
she
the
left,
broken
they
taillight
left it.
in the driveway at Ms. McCabe's house, and that it was consistent with what she observed in the photographs that were shown to her of it later in the Sally Port at the Canton Police
She
Department
could have
garage
actually
when the
deleted
search
that too,
warrant was
because
executed on February
she
1st.
thought she did hit him.
Yeah.
You have the text messages between
And she's a
the
whack job.
defendant and Laura Sullivan from January 29th, in which the defendant indicates to Laura Sullivan that John is dead, indicates that we found him in the snow at 5 a.m. And every indication is that he was found in the snow by the defendant, Ms. McCabe, and Ms. Roberts around 6 a.m. 5 a.m. would be about an hour before. 5 a.m. would be between that time where the defendant is unaccounted for, heading in the direction of 34 Fairview Road, 5:18, 5:35. Little things.
Right, but that still doesn't make
Defendant asked
any
Ms.
sense. But
McCabe
you
to
said that
Google how long to
he
die
got
in
hit
the
at
cold.
12.
She did so at
So what does the 5
6:23
a.m. one
6:24
matter?
in the morning. You have the testimony of Ms.
I stopped
Ivins.
listening. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It is so boring.
Key-list databases,
Jeez.
Knowledge C databases, state DB tabs, as far as
Tabs and no, now he's getting even more boring. He's going to try and explain technology to you.
at 6:20,
And he's gonna make me angry.
Now I'm going to explain databases to you. Oh my God.
not deleted
A
by
database.
deleted means. Frankly, Mr. Green,
Oh,
Prime ASMR.
asked Mr. Green, was he aware
dying.
Cellbrite, and by Cellbrite, the person
I think that's why really I could not get into this case until the defense took over.
software worked because of people like
Now this
Mr.
reminds me
Green.
of a Monty Python skit, you know, where they were like kept drinking and their noses were getting bigger and bigger during a cricket match.
Yes.
Remember they?
Oh,
they
they
were
were
getting
wearing
drunker.
false noses. They weren't getting bigger, but they weren't.
They were getting drunker and
Yeah, and
drunker.
drunker and
As
drunker.
far as how long to die.
Well hit, well done, well.
The question
Well,
is,
well,
the
well,
defendant
well.
asked firefighter Whitley in the back of the ambulance, if you recall those. She asked firefighter Whitley how long to die in the cold without a jacket. He knew how Mr. O'Keefe was dressed. She knew when she left him to die in the cold how he was dressed.
What?
The defendant made statements to firefighter Becker that the last time that she saw Mr. O'Keefe, they were in an argument. Again, in the back of the same ambulance as firefighter Whitley. You have testimony from firefighter Woodbury.
Yeah, she said a lot of shit. She said a ton of stuff she shouldn't have said,
Without a jacket.
but that's not evidence,
You
right?
have the testimony from each of these firefighters.
No,
as
the
to
worst
the
is motive. That would be the
vacillating
only
emotional
thing,
state of the defendant
which
that
was that she was angry and then happy
You
and
have the
then
testimony from
and
firefighter
then
Woodbury is that despite
murdered
all
him and then was
no
angry
tears
again.
that he observed of
That's
the
it.
defendant
That's what we have.
What each of those first responders indicated is that the defendant repeatedly stated, is he dead? Is he dead? Not is he okay? Is he going to be okay? How is he? Any sort of questions about the medical condition. Is he dead? That phraseology repeated over and over.
Phraseology? What's phraseology?
Taken to
Is that a real word?
I think so.
juxtaposition.
I don't think Mr. Lally going to make up words.
Text to Laura Sullivan.
That's not what
Found in
Mr.
snow at
Lally
5 a.m.
does.
The unaccounted
He's
for
a
time
malaproppist.
heading in
You know he
the
is.
direction of 34 Fairview Road, 518 to 535. The repeated
Which I feel is a
questioning
made-up
by
word.
Firefighter Whitley, Firefighter Woodbury,
All words are made up.
asking Miss McCabe to look up those things in her phone.
Western devil.
Is what she
He also
looked
doesn't have a pocket
asked
square,
him,
so you can't
is
trust
he
him.
dead? Is he
Does he even
dead?
have a pocket?
Is he dead?
Yeah, there's a pocket.
There is? don't see it.
No,
You have the testimony.
No,
that
he-
you've
no,
heard
he doesn't have a
from Mr.
pocket.
No, it's not a
yeah.
fancy suit. No, it's weird. It's like a crease there.
Say them
But
together
it's not.
because as far as
No, I
these
can
two
see it. It
women
says
were
he doesn't have a
concerned,
pocket.
they did not
They didn't have a
know
place to put a
each
pocket
other
square.
really at all. The only time
Can't
You can't
trust him.
trust a man that doesn't have a pocket or
appreciably together
pocket
by
square.
Square.
January 29, 2022 is when Mr. O'Keefe nicely took them out for sneakers because he had some sort of deal at a Reeboks outlet or something like that to sort of try to pay them back for the help that they provided him and the children. Jennifer with respect to the niece and Kerry with respect to the nephew. But they're both contacted by the defendant in the early morning of January 29th. As Ms. McCabe testified, John was my friend. I love John. He was an amazing guy. At the waterfall, Mr. Albert said going home to have a drink with his son, Brian Jr., if anyone wants to come. Open invitation to the table. She said to Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant, you guys should come. Both the defendant and the victim indicated that they wanted to come and that they were coming. She describes the phone calls and the text messages that she receives from Mr. O'Keefe, that she's providing directions. She indicates she's providing them directions to go down Chapman. She describes how that is. And you've heard this testimony from a couple of different witnesses as far as the steepness as you're going down going down Fairview of coming off of Chapman. That you first go down a big, steep hill. It flattens out for a little bit, and then you go down a second hill. 2 hills going down on Chapman.
What?
Matching the GPS native location and the health data as far as where Mr. O'Keefe's phone is, a half-mile away from 34 Fairview Road, at the time that his health data is reporting that he's ascending or descending 3 flights of stairs.
On Waze.
Hear the testimony from Ms. McCabe as far as the last time that she spoke to Mr. O'Keefe. And she's still trying to provide directions to Fairview because Mr. O'Keefe has never been there before and neither has the defendant, which is further corroborated in Trooper Garino's testimony as far as the vehicle passing by Fairview and then coming back in on the other side, having to reverse direction. But she's giving directions and she indicates that she uses a house that Mr. O'Keefe will be familiar with, that belonging to Bella or Bella's mom. Bella's mom is an ex-girlfriend for a short period of time from a long time ago. However, in the defendant's mind, it's so prescient on her mind that she's still talking about it the next morning or later on that morning when she's riding, going towards Fairview Road with Miss Roberts and Miss McCabe in Miss Roberts' car. She's still talking about that at that time. It's that much on her mind.
Yeah. Because she doesn't think he's dead. She thinks he's cheating on him.
On the front door, as did Mr. McCabe, as did Brian Albert Jr., as did Julie Nagel, as did Ryan Nagel, and the vehicle moved up several times or several spots to where it was then positioned. Initially at some point in front of the door, then it moves up further so that it's in the area of the fire hydrant.
Yeah, Trooper Proctor makes stuff up.
Discovered later on that morning.
Yeah, I agree.
At least by Miss McCabe and Miss Roberts. And then moves up further beyond that. And I say that in the sense of it moves up
Everybody's
further
squirming
beyond that with
and, like,
sufficient distance for it to then go
Not paying
in reverse
attention. They're
for 62 and a
nobody's
half
really
feet,
listening to him.
24.2 miles per hour, striking Mr. O'Keefe and leaving him where he was found later on the 29th. Again, the testimony from Miss McCabe that about 12:40 when she's texting him, she indicated in her testimony.
If you were the family, wouldn't you be so angry?
Which family?
The
O'Keefe's?
the O'Keefes, yeah.
Wakes up to a phone call from John's niece Kaylee at 4:53 in the
To have
morning.
it mishandled
From
so
eighth grade
badly.
Yeah, if you think it's her. Either way,
She answers
doesn't
the phone at
matter.
4:53 in the morning. She then
Either
hears the defendant
you'd be
screaming
pissed because
loud
you think the
over and
cops could have
over,
done it,
Jen,
or
John didn't come home.
that they
Got in a
mishandle it so
fight.
bad they're going to
That's
mess up the
been
case and she's going to get off scot-free.
variations,
Either way,
iterations of that
not been
story
good.
as it evolves and changes over the course of that morning. Ms. McCabe then indicates to the defendant, "We saw you outside of my sister's house." Then she starts yelling, Jen, did I hit him? Could I hit him?" Then they start discussing, or the defendant brings up her cracked tail. And then both Ms. McCabe and Mr. McCabe hear the defendant screaming outside of their home at about 5 o'clock in the morning, or shortly after 5 o'clock in the morning. They go to Mr. O'Keefe's house. And both Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts indicates, and you heard this testimony from a number of different witnesses, friends and family of Mr. O'Keefe, that he had a rule, pretty strict rule in his house as far as you take your shoes off when you come in the house. And so what do Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts both do when they're entering in that house on January 29th? They take off their boots, they get out in the snow, they take off their boots in the mudroom, and then they walk in. What did they both indicate that the defendant did that morning when she came back to the house? Just walked right in with the shoes. You hear that second voicemail. It's after the defendant's arrived back at 1 Meadows Ave, after her phone is reconnected with Mr. O'Keefe's Wi-Fi. And you can hear the footsteps. Part of that may be in the garage, part of that might be in the house. Why is it that the defendant has no issue with wearing shoes in the house when Mr. O'Keefe has that strict rule? Because she knows where he is. She knows it's not an issue, he's not coming home, because she hit him with her SUV and she left him in the snow.
there you go.
Ms. Roberts and Ms. McCabe are frantically sort of running around the house looking for Mr. O'Keefe. Defendant's not. They then get in the vehicle.
There,
They drive back.
he literally is
towards
like shaming her
Fairview
because she didn't
Road,
take her shoes
and
off in the house.
The defendant, from the back seat of the vehicle, immediately sees the defendant, starts pulling and kicking on the door, and runs in sort of a beeline straight over to where Mr. O'Keefe is laying on the front lawn.
Yeah. Did he lose his place?
Testimony from Mr. Roberts, as far as
Sorry, I forgot where I was. What was I saying?
John's phone.
He
from the
bores
firefighter,
himself. He's like,
Pick him up and recall several witnesses testifying about that. Pick him up on
He's the most boring man in the world.
the ambulance while they're conducting.
Remember that
business
from Monty
efforts
Python too?
to save
I can go on and on and on and
underneath.
they're the most boring things.
Phone on the grass. On the grass in the area that is completely covered in snow in every other area except under Mr. O'Keefe, which I would submit indicates how
Or he's the
long
guy that
Mr.
can put
O'Keefe
rocks
has
to
been
sleep.
there. I recall around 12 o'clock or so is when it starts to snow and it starts to stick a little bit. You've heard all that
I've done it.
and I know it was a lot of testimony about snow, and a lot of testimony about weather, but there's a purpose to that. There's a point to that, okay? As far as the grass underneath Mr. O'Keefe's body, where his cell phone was, Ms. Roberts observes some 6 hours later after it starts snowing, is still visible only under Mr. O'Keefe where his body is, which I would submit as evidence to you as to how long he's been there.
But why is the phone
Now,
underneath
on
him
top of that,
if he got hit?
you
Like,
also have hours.
He can't
of
explain
great
it
videos of the
unless someone
driveway as far as
physically put it there.
shoveling and
'Cause it would've
all
fallen on
keys
the
from other
road.
People, snow blowing,
Yeah.
shoveling, and all those kinds of things. There's a purpose to that as well. If you look at those, if you look at the video of the defendant crashing into Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle at a speed of anywhere from 0 to 5, which even Dr. Wolf would indicate would not cause the damage to the taillight that was observed in this case.
That's
You don't-
true,
you don't see-
because
you
it
don't
was
see
ripped
snow
off
move
later.
Mr. O'Keefe's vehicle when they come into contact. You don't see any red or clear plastic pieces in the snow. And if you look at those stills, not the ones that counsel put up there during his closing, but if you look at the video and the stills, you can see the damage.
he just said,
consistent
ignore the evidence.
taillight at each and every point. You see the damage
He just,
consistent
he
with the
literally
taillight
just said that.
507.
Ignore
You see
the evidence.
damage
Go
consistent
by what
with
we're
the
telling
HTC
you,
video,
which is
Lieutenant Ray from the cruiser camera video
wow.
going into the driveway. You see the damage consistent from the Dighton video at the defendant's home. You see the
They're
damage
passing notes.
consistent
Look at
from
the
the
back.
right
They're
rear,
passing notes.
February 1st, 2022, when the search warrant is conducted, Ms. Hartnett removes all
Oh,
those
that's for her
pieces.
gum. She's chewing gum.
The weather is
Her
also
gum is more
important when it comes
interesting
to
than
hair. Imagine
Mr.
hair, as
Lally.
Jackson likes to call it.
Did you see
yeah.
that?
There's no gum allowed in
It's
the
actually
court.
frozen to the vehicle, as was the glass to the bumper, because the vehicle looked like that on the left when it was caked in snow. When Officer Barrow saw it in the driveway in Dighton as they were waiting.
No, that is
for
not
to
the
have
picture we
snow
saw.
Walking up, because remember they didn't even pull into the driveway because they had to have someone come down and plow it before they could get into it. That's what the vehicle looked like. What you can see, however, is the damage to the taillight, to the side of that taillight.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That hair, that 7/8 of an inch
Yeah.
hair, was frozen to the side. And as you remember, the testimony from Sergeant Buchanan about the heated condition of the
So
Canton Police Department.
this
garage
makes
was
sense.
One of the reasons that they
Like
took it to
when,
the other barracks,
because of the
they
snowstorm,
didn't have that heated
it
condition.
covered everything up, so you couldn't really see.
After it's been in there from January 29th at about 5:30 p.m. until
But-
February 1st when they conduct the search warrant, the hair isn't still frozen as it's contained within
Are you
the
sure that's
glass,
when
and the pieces
it went
of glass
missing?
on the rear bumper have melted. The snow has melted.
Because what about the
As
picture
you
when
can
she
see
left? Because it
from
was
the
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's something else that occurred.
Yeah.
Weather, also important, I would submit, weather was a weapon. Remember, the cause of death here is not just blunt impact.
Weather
injuries,
was a
blunt
weapon.
Impact injuries and hypothermia.
That's what he just said.
You heard all that medical testimony in relation to it, and you heard
Yeah.
all that testimony in relation to the snow and the weather
Yeah.
and the wind. Wind gusts up
Yeah.
to 37 miles per hour while he's out
Everybody's
there
bored.
out there in just a shirt and jeans.
Yeah.
Oh,
You heard
ingenious.
also testimony
He
from,
he
Ms. Roberts
killed
She
him using the
planned
leather.
it.
the injuries
Yep.
She
observed in
planned-
Mr. O'Keefe,
Wow.
that initially on scene, there was one eye that was swollen, not the other.
Mhm.
If that's indication of
Yep. A punch.
swelling that Dr. Scortibella was
I think
testifying
Mr.
to,
Lally
indication of
is good at paperwork,
both eyes
not necessarily good at
Mr. O'Keefe's body after his passing.
Talking.
talking. They really should just have him doing the paperwork in the back, filing the
Tells you
motions.
the same consistent
They should not. I mean,
internally as
the jury should just find her not guilty because he's so boring. I mean, if they just stopped listening
testimony to the
to
reconstruction.
everything he said.
You have the testimony from Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts that they couldn't
Who's
see
that guy?
Mr.
Look at that guy's
O'Keefe's
face.
rear view when they initially
in the left.
Yeah, I know. Been watching him.
That from Officer
The one in
Sarah.
the suit, the vest.
Yeah, and he's looking at his watch again.
You have Mr. O'Keefe being covered in snow from the storm. You know where Mr. O'Keefe
Look at the guy in the
was.
back.
It's
Back up
clearly
there, falling
visible on the
asleep.
cruiser camera from Officer Sarah.
Oh, yeah.
You have
He just did the
testimony
head
from
nod
each of the
thing.
responding officers, anywhere from 5 to 12 feet off the roadway, and from the civilians as well. Ms. McKay,
Oh,
Ms.
poor
Roberts,
Mr. Now I'm feeling bad for him. Now, okay, so now I've reached over the point of mockery, and now I feel bad for him.
until he was 5 feet away in the darkness, in the snow, in the blizzard conditions. No footprints around the body. There's no fragments.
Stop.
This is so
No
terrible.
evidence of anything in relation to Brian Albert and Brian Higgins.
Okay.
Brian Albert and Brian Higgins.
Yeah, I know. It's terrible.
Charlie Brown, the adult.
Yeah, wah, 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 wah. Yeah. He really just needs to stick to paperwork. All right.
Oh, God.
Traveled all the way down to New
Well,
York,
actually,
came
for
back
me,
to
I got more
Brooklyn,
out of the
only to
womp
come
womp
back
womp
from
voices
that,
because they intonated.
out drinking,
They had
to come back to Mr.
tone
Roberts'
and
house,
clarity of
to
like
then
what they were
murder
actually
another police
saying.
officer who they
You couldn't
knew
understand what they were
worked for the
saying, but
same
you could
department.
understand through the emotions of
Criminal
what the womp
mastermind
womp
genius
said.
that Brian Albert is, 28 years on the Boston Police Department, he's then going to just leave Mr. O'Keefe's body on his front lawn? Really?
He's drunk and he's on steroids.
And he just accidentally
What evidence do you
possibly
have?
killed a guy.
Yeah, and his dog accidentally.
You have statements of the defendant
Chewed him
made
up,
to Sergeant
like-
Buchanan on January 29th. She was willing to speak but didn't want to give too much detail. Conversational tone
Everybody's
throughout.
checking their watches.
She indicated that the night before they had gotten into an argument, something about
Wow.
I bet at the end of this,
fed to the children.
he's gonna
Nothing
celebrate
about
because he think he did a good
detailed
job.
arguments, incessant
He's
phone
doing the
calls,
absolute
everything else
best he
was solved.
can.
Defendant and Mr.
He's just
Don't defend this guy.
okay. He is the wrong person in the wrong
I
role.
agree with that. I do agree with that 100%. I agree.
They,
When asked where she parked her vehicle,
he
she
needs
said
to be
Washington
behind the
Street across
scenes
the
doing
parking
paperwork,
Yep.
space
not
northbound on the side-
in a
same side
high
of the
profile case like
Same
this.
testimony that
I
you
don't
heard
think it was
from
high profile until it's too late.
defendant going over to her vehicle, getting in the
I
driver's
think
seat.
Well, we are so late to the game, but yeah.
yeah, I think originally it was like slam dunk,
They were left
just-
the waterfall, were invited to her
and then
residence.
as it starts
She
going
drove
up and
her
as the
John
evidence
to
starts
location
piling in,
again.
it's
She
like
dropped Mr. O'Keefe off.
Well, we're
Did
gonna
not
start with
send
the
him on
Lori.
home.
Yeah,
She
I know.
defendant stated
That's
she
another
was
problem through this whole
waiting
thing. They don't take lunch at normal times.
asked
Christy, do you mean a
about the
liquid
damage to her
launch?
vehicle.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's how we need to get through the.
I don't know. It happened
Everyone needs to get drunk at the what's the waterfall?
Waterfall. Yeah,
The waterfall.
yeah. They need to become a puddle.
Puddle,
Waterfall.
paddle at the waterfall.
We have that other recording of that other version.
Okay,
that you
so
now have
this
bought
cult,
into as far as,
the
uh,
profundity yours has
stating
completely
Sergeant
disappeared.
Buchanan that
Yeah,
John
'cause I
was
think
beaten up by Brian
either
Albert.
They predict-
something really bad happened, or they were like,
Pulverized
well,
in my taillights.
everything that she said was wrong, and
Because they predicted the end of the world in 2023, and then it didn't happen.
Mr.
But
O'Keefe never
they're
went
gone.
You have
So I want to
testimony
go there
from
and
Paul
eat at that
Albert, Brian
cafe
Albert,
because
Jennifer McCabe,
I wanna make a
Matthew McCabe,
timeline
Caitlin
of
Albert, Brian Albert Jr.,
every,
Sarah Levinson, Julie Nagel.
So
I'm
no
not working, so no
puddling.
pudding for me.
Never went
Puddling for me.
Puddling.
Not
Never
pudding.
went in the house.
Pudding.
Puddling.
Testimony and the data points that you have from Trooper Garino.
I mean, you could,
You know
Christy,
how
but
Mr. O'Keefe
yeah,
was
probably not a good idea.
You have the testimony from Kurt Roberts, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, Karina Kolokithis, Nicholas Kolokithis, Brian
There's no
Albert,
waterfall near you?
Brian Higgins.
Yeah.
All indicated in the testimony.
There's no waterfall near us
Yeah,
either.
that's true.
There's a good tequila bar, but
Mr. O'Keefe was
not a
dressed
not
for
a
weather when he
just a
left.
straight
Tequila bar's
cop
so
bar.
good.
Maybe there is a cop bar. We just don't know about it.
Yeah.
Gonna find a good cop bar.
You have the testimony about the car, the defendant's car being there in front of the house, moving multiple times. You have that from multiple sources. You have that from Matthew McCabe. You have that from Jennifer McCabe. You have that from Brian Albert Jr.
Everybody
You have
in the
that
house,
From Julie
yes.
Nagel. You have that from Ryan Nagel.
So everybody in the house said that she moved her car multiple times.
Ms. Baxton indicated she saw a male passenger,
Maybe.
female operator.
Oh, wait a minute,
as
that goes against
vehicle
the-
was turned. Remember,
the
they were
evidence.
coming towards
They
Fairview
have the
at same
GPS track
time.
of the
Defendant,
car,
after
and she
conducting
wasn't
that
over there.
reversal
So
three-point turn on
wait a
Cedar
minute.
Crest is then taking a right
They're
on
just
Fairview,
he's making stuff up at this point. He just
Yeah.
he's just talking. He's
Yeah.
like trying to use up his whole 45 minutes, making us crazy.
Indicates that Mr. D'Antonio then flashes lights.
If that fancy
During that time, Ms.
defense
Baxton
lawyer can do it,
sees
so can I.
a male passenger,
Look at me, Ma.
female operator. They follow the vehicle as they're turning onto the street. Lo and behold, they're going to the same residence. They park. There's nothing in between them.
This looks like the kind of guy that you would find at a bar,
Indicates
like,
that at
all
no
the time.
Do they see anybody get
Mr.
out of the
Lally?
vehicle?
Yeah.
No time do they see any
He looks like a
Alcoholic.
or it hasn't
Well,
happened
he's
yet.
from Massachusetts. Aren't they all alcoholics up there?
Well, they're all Democrats too, right?
Go into the house. The vehicle moves up
I don't know, just
on
these
different
weird
sets of
comments of
occasions,
videos.
like by Mr. Nagel
so-
and several others.
So odd.
And then as
Are they
they're
all
passing
Democrats in
that vehicle,
I
Massachusetts?
don't know.
Mr.
I know
Nagel
in
indicates
Connecticut
he
they
sees the
are.
female operator in the vehicle with the dome light on. Interesting, when I asked Mr. Nagel, as far as when Julie Nagel came out to the vehicle, did he roll down the window or did he open the door? He indicated he opened the door. And I asked him, what happened when you open the door? What happens when you open the door to a vehicle? The dome light comes on. So there's a reason I would submit, or the inference that you can make, is that no one sees Mr. O'Keefe in the vehicle because that's the moment he steps out of the vehicle.
What?
And then they're gone. The Nagels, Ryan Nagel, Ricky D'Antono, and Heather Maxon drive away from that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Testimony from
none of
Julie
that has
Nagel
to be
and Sarah
truthful.
Levinson, the peanut butter and jelly sandwich conversation they have with Miss McKay, which while they're pulling away from the
But
house, where everybody's attention.
My
is
opinion
on,
is that
Dave
this is the
Bernhardt
time that he
facing
should be
in the backseat,
at his
Miss Nagel
best,
is
showing
facing Miss Levinson on the passenger side, looking out the
like
window
probable
towards,
cause and everything else, and
Fairview Road.
still not really seeing it.
Looking
He
back,
just
Miss Nagel,
blah, like,
from that area, in which Miss Nagel indicates that she sees
and
the
he's
5 to 6
just like his
dark
opening
dog
remarks. He's
on
just
the
saying a
lawn.
bunch of names, names. And at this point, we're supposed to know all these names, like
Right.
we're listening.
Discovered the next morning.
Look like-
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
See, that was the
Yeah,
idea I had.
yeah.
He was like a guy at a bar that just
Yeah.
Have text messages
Telling you all those random stupid facts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Colin Albert when he gets picked up from Palm.
Mr. Lally, 5 minutes.
thank
God. Jeez.
Colin Albert, Miss,
I thought that would never come.
Cole Albert, Caitlin Albert, Brian Jr., all indicating that it was picked up around that time at 12:10 a.m. We have the testimony from Chris and Julie Albert, his parents, as far as when he comes home, kisses them goodnight before he goes to bed.
I also
have that testimony
the things
in
that like
regards
I hope the jury remembers is that like
Chris Albert,
there's
as far as
even what
how
he's saying there's
John O'Keefe and the defendant
like
come to be at the
in
waterfall
his
first,
closing
as far as
there's
how
conflicting
Stephen is
information.
coming in early in the day,
So
getting
he's not even doing a good job of like building this up because he's like they were all in the kitchen during this time period.
From Lieutenant O'Hara,
So he said that.
Tully,
But he
Sergeant
also
Mechanic,
said too that they said that they saw her out front during that time period from the back in the
particularly items
kitchen.
being recovered on
So it's like
January
which
29th
one
by
is
that
it?
search.
He's just talking.
I know.
He's just.
But if I
he's
was
just-
if I was a jury and I was like listening to this, I'd be
Well,
like,
okay, well, and then Miss Bev Judge,
yeah,
she said, "Don't take notes."
yeah. No, but I would. Yeah, I know, which is so
Delay
weird.
in the recovery of
I didn't
that.
know you weren't supposed to take notes.
Yeah.
The photos in the video, most of which you have in evidence.
Yeah. Sorry.
We knew who you were talking about.
yeah. Yeah. Well, the fact you said Claiborne and I went, yeah, that's right.
They found evidence where it had been at that same ground level, in the grass, under the snow, at 34 Fairview Road. We heard all of the medical testimony, which I would submit is consistent, from firefighter Formati to Dr. Rice. You heard the testimony regarding the defendant's blood alcohol concentration for Dr. Fowler and Nick Roberts, 93 milligrams per deciliter, 0.07 to 0.08% at 9:08 in the morning. You heard it, Mr. Roberts' testimony in regard to the retrograde extrapolation, 0.13 to 0.29, extrapolating back to the time of the operation. The defendant admits to drinking vodka. It's on the receipts from C.F. McCarthy's and from the waterfall.
Yeah, and she's
You have
never
witness
said that she wasn't
testimony and
drunk.
Surveillance video in regard to that. The forensic testimony that you have. In regard to the medical testimony, you have the sort of pattern abrasions, the clear plastic that's recovered by Lieutenant O'Hara and Lieutenant Tully on January 29th. The clear plastic that has the dimples on it. No one, not Trooper Paul, not anyone, any point in time ever said that Mr. O'Keefe's arm was out like this at the time that he struck and that he did a pirouette and then flew 30 feet in the air.
But that's the
12
evidence has to match that.
of Abrasions that the doctors were.
Atlanta's put in a bid to host the Sundance Film
Ooh,
Festival.
And then 6 inches for the
How
tail.
fun would that be?
that'd be
Easily
fun.
solved by this. And the dimples. on
That's
his
how
arm,
off base I
I would submit a consistent
So bad.
dimples on the tail light cover piece are right around this area of the elbow. You have the testimony in regard to forensics as far as Mr. Porto, Mr. Bradford.
It's been 5 minutes. Come on.
On that tail light house. On the house. His DNA is there to the exclusion as well of Sergeant Mechanic and Trooper Proctor. Mr. O'Keefe's DNA is on the exterior of the broken drinking glass. Mr. O'Keefe's DNA and only Mr. O'Keefe's DNA is on his clothing and his fingernails, consistent with Dr. Scortibello's testimony that there is no evidence of a fight or an altercation. There's no one else's DNA under his fingernails. There's no one else's DNA on his clothing. You have the testimony from Ms. Hartman, Trooper Paul, as regard to the damage that they observed, the dent, scratches, the 7/8 of an inch hair. You have the testimony from Ms. Chart in regard to the mitochondrial DNA profile from that hair being consistent with the DNA profile.
Is he going to say the ground was concrete?
You have the testimony from Ms. Valier and Ms. Hanley in regard to the microscopic pieces.
It has been 5 minutes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you have 1 minute, Mr. Lally. Wrap it up.
Jeez.
All consistent with pieces of tail
I think,
lights
like,
that are found.
This is like who was it? Einstein's theory of relativity, right? Every time he talks, time slows down.
Yeah.
That whole thing was actually only 7 minutes of closing arguments, or 3 hours for us.
605, this is what this vehicle looks like backing up at that speed for approximately that distance.
Okay, let's see. Here it goes.
There's another, years and years ago, started practicing in Norfolk County, in
What?
Braintree, what is now Quincy.
What?
What?
I eventually became a far smarter man than myself. Eventually became President of the United States. His name was John Adams. John Adams once wrote, "Facts are stubborn things. Whatever may be our wishes,
What?
our
Oh my God,
inclinations,
next he's going to go Webster's
dictates,
Dictionary
our actions.
defines.
They cannot always
What
be
are we
facts.
listening to? No.
They didn't even show the car.
What the constellation of the facts and the evidence ineluctably demonstrate here is that the defendant drove her vehicle in reverse for 24.2 miles per hour, or 62 and a half feet.
Even guy on the camera was just like,
So he fell asleep on the camera.
leaving him
He's
incapacitated.
snoring.
Jesus Christ.
Mr. Lally, I have to stop.
Stop. Thank you.
Yay!
God.
Quoting John Adams. John
One
Adams.
sentence, I'll give you.
From that facts and that evidence,
And he's still
I would
talking.
say ineluctably demonstrates her guilt.
He's
of
close
each of
enough.
the indictments before you, and I would ask that you find her so. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Jurors, I have my instructions on the law. I'm going to give you my guess.
So no
is
rebuttals?
Probably about an
Okay.
hour. I'd like to start it now, but if does anybody need a short break? We can take a short break. Okay, we'll come back in 5 minutes.
All right, we probably don't need to keep streaming, and we'll come back for a verdict.
Yeah, I think so. Oh my gosh.
He's the worst. I think that's why I just like. I can't. I'm at a loss for words.
I think if
If I
there
was a juror-
overwhelming evidence against her, I would just find her innocent just to spite him.
Yeah. he just droned on and on and on and didn't say anything except for lots of.
Nothing. And
Yeah.
then they're like, oh, look, we're going to show you what a car looks like backing up at 24 miles. And then it's just a.
Then nothing. What?
Oh my God.
Go straight to John Adams. Random picture of Alexis. Go straight to John Adams. Like, I don't even.
Yeah, if you would have ended it with Webster's Dictionary defines, I would have been like, yes, the trifecta, you ruined it. Oh my God.
All right.
Hey, thank you for the $5, Christy.
Oh, that's
really
so-
appreciate
Oh,
it.
wow. Thank you so much.
You are our first
Yay.
super chat ever. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
That's
so
awesome. That
kind.
makes your heart swell. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. We never had that
you.
before. We didn't even know it worked.
Sheep a dog writing with a brush, writing
Aw.
number one. Oh, thank you.
So sweet.
Appreciate it. Yep. What? Let's celebrate their. Oh, that was your 5th super on a live stream. Good job. Nice. Well, thank you.
Awesome.
That makes that really does help a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that.
All right, so we're going to end the stream, and then we will start live streaming if their verdict comes in. And
Yeah.
We'll do. No, yeah, it's
No,
great.
no,
Thank
don't.
you.
No, please.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That means a lot to us.
It really
Uh,
does.
yeah.
Thank you.
And we are hopefully trying to do a live stream about Colt News at 3. So I know you gave me this look like I can't do it anymore.
I know.
I give
Well,
up on life.
especially if I know after that, like everything just like saps out of you.
Yeah, but we can go get coffee and a beer.
Okay. All right. Coffee and a beer.
We'll
All
be
right.
we'll be back
Thank you so much,
with
Christy.
booty.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.